Good morning. I would like to call the joint meeting on the Senate Finance and Assembly Ways and Means to order. Happy Friday and welcome to everyone for joining us today. I am Senator Marilyn Dondero Loop and I will be chairing the meeting today. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Assemblymember Anderson. Present. Assemblymember Backus. Present. Assemblymember Brown-May. Here. Assemblymember Dickman. Here. Assemblymember Hafen. Here. Assemblymember Hibbets. Here. Assemblymember Howdegi. Assemblymember Koenig. Here. Assemblymember Mosca. Here. Assemblymember O'Neill. Here. Assemblymember Torres Fawcett. Here. Assemblymember Watts. Assemblymember Yeager. Senator Buck. Here. Senator Cannizzaro. Here. Senator Wen. Here. Senator Scheibel. Here. Senator Stone. Here. Senator Taylor. Senator Titus. Here. Assemblymember Monroe Moreno.
Here.
Chair Dondero Loop.
Here. Thank you very much, and please mark those not here present as they arrive. We have many bill hearings going on, and people are sort of in and out at this point. Before we move on to today's hearings, I would like to go over the housekeeping. Please silence all electronic devices, and all of those testifying today, please state and spell your name for the record. And if you are giving any public comment today, we would love if you would sign in on the sign-in sheet. If you have a business card, please provide that business card to the committee secretary. And lastly, public comment will be at the end of the meeting. Today we have 3 agencies on the agenda for a budget hearing. First, we'll hear from the Office of Energy. Next, we'll go to the Office of Science and Innovation and Technology, and then finally we'll hear from the Governor's Office of Economic Development. So today we will begin with the Office of Energy, and I would like to welcome Dwayne McClinton, Director of the Office of Energy, to the committee table, and anyone else that is with you, please come up, and we will hear Budget 4868, and please begin when you're ready. Welcome.
Good morning, Chair Dondero Loop, Chair Monroe Moreno, and joint committee members. For the record, Dwayne McClinton, that is spelled D-W-A-Y-N-E-M-C-C-L-I-N-T-O-N. I am the Director of the Nevada's Governor's Office of Energy. With me today, I have Matt Brown, my Deputy Director. We would like to thank you for having us here this morning to present to you GOE's Budget 4868. I will remain here for the duration of the presentation to help answer any questions you may have at the conclusion of the presentation. But at this time, I will turn it over to my Deputy Director, Matt Brown.
Good morning, Matthew Brown, Deputy Director, M-A-T-T-H-E-W-B-R-O-W-N. Our vision is to provide all Nevadans affordable, reliable, sustainable, and clean energy choices through a holistic, realistic approach. We do this by maintaining and applying an understanding of the energy landscape in Nevada. GOE promotes policy, manages programs, and distributes federal funding to meet Nevada's energy needs. GOE fosters thoughtful energy forecasting and planning, promotion of research and development in the energy sector, maximization of Nevada's energy resources, and wise use of energy. Our agency operations are guided by NRS 701 and 701A. Governor Lombardo's energy plan positions Nevada as a clean energy leader to ensure safe, reliable, and affordable delivery of energy statewide. The energy industry will continue to set the standard for job creation in skilled trades, economic diversification, innovation and development of safe, reliable, and affordable energy resources. We currently have 19 FTEs with 6 vacancies. Our programs fall within 4 categories: energy efficiency, energy assurance, renewable energy, and workforce development. This is an overview of the whole agency. Our three budget accounts have a $41.1 million budget in FY26. We'd like to highlight that the majority of our budget goes towards programming, with approximately 43%, and 47% goes towards reserves, which will be used at a later date for programming and operational needs. We do our best to keep operational costs to a minimum, so majority of our funding goes towards benefiting Nevadans. In FY27, we have a $37.9 million budget, with approximately 39 going towards programming and 50% going towards reserves. Budget account 4868 is our main operating budget account. This budget account houses our FTEs, our operational expenditures, and majority of our programs. In FY26, we have a $20.7 million budget, with 85% going towards programming expenditures. And in FY27, we have an $18.1 million budget, with 82% going towards programming expenditures. This is just a brief history of the agency's operating budget. Prior to 2023, when Governor Lombardo appointed Director McClinton to lead the Office of Energy, the agency had an average operating budget of $1.7 million for the prior 8 years. The director was asked by this body during the 82nd legislative session about going after federal funding. And Director McClinton testified that the agency would go after all funding that will benefit Nevada. He implored the staff to be aggressive in going after the available funding, and the agency was able to secure multiple programs. As you can see in FY23, there is a small jump to $7 million due to ARPA funding. In FY24, it jumped to $40 million. And with the work programs we have submitted to the Interim Finance Committee for April's meeting, FY25 can end with a $140 million budget. The next two slides are going to highlight the programs that were secured during the interim. Grid Infrastructure Development Resilience Program is our grid. The State Energy Program Bipartisan Infrastructure Law is our SET bill program. Energy Efficiency Revolving Loan, our EERLF. Home Efficiency Rebate Program is our HOMES. Home Electrification and Appliance Rebate Program is our HERE program. Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant is EECBG. And Training for Residential Energy Contractors is our TREC program. What isn't identified on the slides or in our budget is the increase to the grid program, which was approved at the January IFC meeting, which added an additional $7 million to that program. At the April IFC meeting, there's an additional $95 million that will increase to our Homes in Here program, and an additional $5 million for a new program, our codes program, which will go to support local communities in their adoption of code regulations so they could come into compliance. The agency also has 3 applications submitted for additional grants, and another 3 in process where concept papers are already submitted or in draft status. These are enhancement requests. E300 is for additional registrations for our staff to be able to attend conferences so they could continue to network, stay up to date on new standards and regulations, and learn about new technology and educational opportunities that could potentially benefit Nevada. E303 is for additional lease space in our current building. This adds 2 additional suites which will run concurrent with our current lease to provide the space flexibility we need as our programs grow. This gives us a training space, a new conference room, and office space for staff. E350 is an increase to travel in the second year of the biennium to cover travel expenditures during session. And E710 is for equipment replacements, which is in line with the state's recommended replacement schedule. This is just to highlight 2 programs that are ending. The office received ARPA funding to collect data on state-owned buildings to analyze the energy usage and provide information on potential energy-efficient projects. And SB 505 enhanced that program, allowing the agency to collect and track energy usage and emissions for state vehicles. This ends our prepared presentation for Budget Account 4868.
Thank you very, very much for that. Committee, does anyone have a question for this department? Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I kind of had a general question, because we're seeing that this budget has a substantial increase in funds of, I think it's a 31 million increase over what was approved last legislative session. Majority of that is federal grants, and so a lot of federal money tied up with your agency. So I'm sure you can anticipate where I'm probably going with this. What sort of conversations, assurances have you had with the federal government that we're going to continue to receive those funds over the biennium? If those funds do not come in and there's a significant shortfall of that increase, which I know totals 31 million, I don't think all of that is federal funds. Some of that's transfers, right, from renewable energy. But what does that look like for the state? What happens if that funding does not come through? Because I think a lot of that funding, right, is tied to clean energy programs, things that we have all sort of been told are wasteful from the federal government and not a good exercise or use of federal dollars. So what happens if that federal money doesn't come through and we approve this budget, assuming that there's going to be that increase in federal funds?
Madam Chair, through you to Senator Canzaro, Matthew Brown, for the record. We have had conversations with Department of Energy, and our federal funds are flowing again. We are able to draw on all our active grants at this time, and we have been assured that we are moving forward with them. So at this time, we are not in any risk of having those clawed back. So our programs that we have secured are moving forward. And we continue to go after alternative fundings outside of the IRA, IIJA, so that we can still benefit Nevada even outside of those funding sources.
Madam Chair, follow up, if I may. So I know it sounds like currently you're still able to draw down on those grant funds. You haven't lost that authority. We're obviously would be approving, right, a budget in governor's recommended budget that includes substantial federal funding over the biennium. So what happens when the next tranche of cuts turns out to be a whole bunch of money that is coming in for our Department of Energy, Office of Energy from the Department of Energy, and we lose those federal funds? Is there enough, and when you're talking about these alternative sources, have you identified enough funding in those alternative sources to make up that shortfall if that were the case? Or is this legislature going to come in and have to cut this budget or find that money elsewhere?
Matthew Brown, for the record. As I stated, the active grants are moving forward. Those monies are not being clawed back. We have had discussions, and I benefit our director for taking a very proactive and forward-thinking approach when the first executive order came out in January. We did not sit back and be reactive about that. We had conversations. We started planning different scenarios, A, B, C, or D, depending on how it would impact our agency. We identified some areas of those programs, if we were to lose funding, that we'd still like to go forward using the renewable energy account, because there's some very beneficial parts of the program that we need to still benefit Nevada. Now, I can't say if something were to happen outside of what we've been told, that money would get cut. We couldn't fulfill all of it. We don't have $100 million in the renewable energy account. We just don't. But there are still parts of that program that we would move forward with the renewable energy account funding to still benefit Nevada until we could find alternative sources.
I appreciate that, and I obviously appreciate you all being proactive. Madam Chair, obviously, we've talked a lot about federal funding here in this committee and others, and obviously just concerned with what feels a little bit like brand new decisions being made about funds and positions that are being cut, and where it is that we may need to make decisions in the future if that were the case. So I appreciate the opportunity to ask questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Majority Leader. Any other questions on this particular item? All right, seeing none, thank you for being here today. Do you have anything you want to say in closing? All righty. Thank you very much, both of you, for being here today. All right, we will go on to budget hearing from the Office of Science, Innovation, and Technology. And we will welcome Brian Mitchell up to the table, along with whoever else he has brought with him. Budget account 1003, and you may go ahead when you are ready.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Senator Dondero Loop, and Madam Chair, Assemblymember Monroe Moreno, and members of the Joint Committee. My name is Brian Mitchell, B-R-I-A-N, M-I-T-C-H-E-L-L. I'm the Director of the Office of Science, Innovation, and Technology, and it's truly a pleasure to be with you here today. Also with me at the table is Tracy Howard, who is the STEM Program Director at OSIT. I have put together a number of slides with a large amount of information. We'll be going through that fairly quickly, but know that the information is there for your reference. Our OSIT's program areas encompass 3 different areas: STEM education and workforce development, graduate medical education, and broadband. And so our presentation will proceed in those 3 areas. The most, I think, important program that we have in STEM education and workforce development is our governor-designated STEM school program. In this program, we take schools on a journey to become organize themselves in a way that offers STEM education in a high-quality way, and they have the opportunity to apply for and receive a designation from the state that they meet the requirements of being a STEM school. This past year, we've designated 14 new schools. The first year of the biennium, we designated 17 schools, and we have designated or redesignated 17 schools, and we have 49 total schools that have met the requirements to become a designated STEM school. And the programs that I'll go through on these slides all support these schools. First, we'll just briefly discuss our STEM Workforce Challenge grants. This is a competitive program that we've run for the last 10 years that will create middle skill STEM jobs and STEM post-secondary workforce training programs at the associate degree level or below that meet the needs of employers. One of these that I'm really excited about is the Humboldt County School District with Lowry High School, where this is a collaboration between the high school and the mines in the area, where the mines came to OSIT and to the district and said that they need more workers that have they need more workers that
Your time's up.
All right. Well, appreciate the time. Thank you. Where the mines have needed workers that that had specific skill sets with robotics, and so we were able to fund a joint program that is providing that training to high school students, so that when they graduate, there will be jobs available for them at the mines. We also have a program called our STEM Workforce Talent Pipeline Grants. These are programs that begin in high school, provide training that includes post-secondary credentials and includes a work-based learning opportunity. The employer partners in the program guarantee a job interview to every student that comes. We have a number of different programs. The one I'll highlight here is one with UNLV, where UNLV is partnering with local schools and employers to provide training in IT. Our regional STEM networks are groups in northern Nevada, southern Nevada, and in the rural areas of the state that have each a regional strategic plan to grow these STEM workforce in their area, and we provide small dollar grants in these areas to support those strategic plans. Moving on into the K-12 area, we have one of the ways that we help prepare students to become governor-designated STEM schools is through our STEM Leaders Academy. In this academy, STEM teachers and administrators come together over a year-long academy, and we provide them with professional development and strategic plan assistance. The schools develop their strategic plan and then implement it, and once they implement it, then they're ready to apply to become a STEM school. And OSED provides a small grant of $25,000 to each school that completes the academy so that they can implement their strategic plan. We've seen a number of these schools that have come into our governor-designated STEM school application process have directly come out of our academy. We also have a program that, for a school that's not necessarily ready to become a STEM school, but has a number of teachers that are interested in doing more with STEM, we have an Engineering Fellows program where we provide professional development in engineering programs in order to teach teachers how to incorporate more engineering into the daily experience of the students. For schools that have become designated STEM schools, we offer a grant program for those schools specific to schools that are on the list. And these grant programs, there's 3 levels of designation. There's developing schools, established schools, and then model schools. And so this grant allows schools to seek funds that will either provide for professional development or equipment for the school so that they can begin to move up the ladder and redesignate perhaps in going from a developing school all the way up to a model school. We also have grants for schools that are not designated STEM schools, specifically for elementary schools. One of the things that we know is that when students get to high school, oftentimes their interests are set, and I'm sure those of you who are parents, kind of know this, that it's hard to get them interested in something new, and so we want to capture kids' interests at an earlier age in STEM, particularly girls, so that they, and to have opportunities to experience STEM so that when they get to middle and high school, they're more willing to or more exposed to STEM and are willing to take some of the STEM classes that are available at the high school level. All right, moving on to graduate medical education. OSED, since 2015, has administered the graduate medical education program in the state. Our current subrecipients are as follows on this list, including a total of 18 fellows or residents that are funded through the current cohort. There's a lot of conversation about what to do with GME in the future, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about that if there are any. Moving on to broadband funding. So the vision and for broadband is that every Nevadan has access to a high-speed internet connection that is affordable, reliable, and scalable. We know that achieving this vision is going to require a lot of collaboration and partnerships, an efficient weaving together of many different funding sources, and a focus on funding long-term investments that bring generational infrastructure to Nevadans in their in areas where there are unserved and underserved locations. We've divided the High Speed Nevada initiative into various phases, and each of those phases is progressing on schedule and on budget. No one single funding source can solve the problem. Ultimately, I'll preview for you that we've identified over 50,000 homes throughout the state that are unserved or underserved and in need of a better broadband connection that meets that reliable, affordable, scalable standard. And so while no one funding source will meet those needs, we have identified a number of different funding sources, about 14, that we are weaving together in different ways in order to ultimately reach our goal. So I'll just briefly describe our progress with each one of these. OSIT was successful in earlier in the biennium with applying for and receiving an NTIA middle mile grant in the amount of $43 million. This middle mile grant will build a network that stretches from Las Vegas up US 93 and through unserved communities and terminate in Wells, where it will connect with another statewide network route that I'll preview for you in just a second. The permitting and environmental work is ongoing for this route. The engineering and design work has been completed, and we're looking forward to starting construction very shortly once the final permits are received from the Bureau of Land Management. You'll hear me say BLM a lot today. Working together with the NTIA Middle Mile funds, we utilized about $73 million in capital projects funds to construct a state-owned route along the I-80 corridor from the Utah border to Reno. This route will ensure that the state has a network capacity on a state-owned route from Las Vegas all the way to Reno, and then that tie into state facilities here in Carson City. The purpose of this route is primarily to ensure that unserved communities that are located along the route have the upstream bandwidth that they need in order to so that local ISPs have that upstream bandwidth to provide service. What ends up happening is that currently it's like having a grocery store with no wholesale network. And so we can't get, local ISPs don't have a way to get the wholesale internet that they need. And so this route will provide affordable wholesale internet that can then be used by retail ISPs in different communities to provide that last mile residential kind of service that all of us buy. We also used state fiscal recovery funds from ARPA, or SLRF funds from ARPA, to connect about 200 different state facilities. We've also partnered with local governments and are connecting about 250 different local government facilities as well. These what I call the spur routes that are off of the main route, and these routes will continue to build fiber into unserved and underserved communities, and that fiber will then be used by retail ISPs to provide residential service to providers. One of the things I'll highlight for these particular ARPA funds is that we've been able to leverage E-rate dollars in the amount of about $43 million in additional funding that was leveraged by the ARPA funding that we've used. And so we're really trying to bring in additional funds to the state beyond those that have been directly appropriated. Here's just kind of a visual of what these middle mile networks will look like when they're completed. And as you can see, they overlap significantly with the unserved areas throughout the state. Moving on to last mile connectivity, which is the residential connectivity and the BEAD program. Congress appropriated $42.5 billion nationally and $416 million to Nevada to connect individual homes that were unserved to Nevada, or to the internet. Nevada, I'm proud to say, was the third state that received approval from the NTIA for its BEAD program, and currently only 3 states, Nevada, Louisiana, and Delaware, have been approved. And so we're definitely an early adopter, and which will allow us to get an early jump on things like workforce, as well as equipment and materials before other states gobble those up and timelines start to stretch out a little bit. I'll go through some of these slides very quickly. Suffice it to say that we had to, in order to utilize these funds, we had to prepare a significant amount of information and proposals that contained a lot of information that was based on stakeholder engagement and public engagement throughout the state. So there are specific requirements that are baked into the law that we have passed on to our subrecipients. Our plan was, as I said, we held over 100 stakeholder meetings in every county of the state, engaged with over 1,000 Nevadans in the development of the plan, and this plan was then what allowed us to go out and procure internet service providers who were willing to implement it. These plans were then posted for public comment and submitted and approved by the NTIA. The process then proceeded where we put out a map and we offered the opportunity for all stakeholders to ensure that the locations that we had identified as unserved were truly unserved, and we didn't need to either add any or subtract any from the map. And so following that challenge process, we then engaged in subgrantee selection and had a fair, open, and competitive bidding process to bring service to every single one of those locations. And I'm very proud that we were able to secure over 500 applications and make awards that will serve every single unserved house that we identified. And then that final proposal was submitted and approved by NTIA. As I mentioned before, there's no one single funding source that will connect every Nevadan, and so we've leveraged funding from both the Capital Projects Fund as well as ARPA to supplement the BEAD funds. As we've mentioned and as the legislature has approved in the past, there were matching funds required for BEAD, and that's where these ARPA funds are being allocated. So together, we have, in our subgrantee selection process, the result is about a $552 million to connect over 51,000 homes and community anchor institutions. This is a list of the last mile subrecipients. We awarded 19 different internet service providers, and these internet service providers will bring service to Nevadans in every county of the state. One of the questions I get asked is how we're going to go about connecting and what the technology type is, and I'm very, very proud that we were able to receive bids for fiber optic internet for about 80% of the bids, with 10% of the bids coming in as wireless and then 10% satellite. I think being able to build fiber to 80% of the unserved Nevadans is a wonderful result, as fiber is a 50-year investment in infrastructure in the state. I've broken down the $552 million by county in case anybody's interested in how the funding is being distributed throughout the state. So here's a general timeline for all of our projects. The projects in phase 1 to connect state facilities and are currently all in. The engineering and design has all been completed. The permitting is mostly complete, and construction has begun. We're bringing construction to over 1 million feet right now, with about 5 million more feet to go. And then the permitting for the middle mile network is underway, and we expect that this summer. And then we expect to begin BEAD last mile subgrantee deployment this summer, with the first Nevadans being connected this summer or this fall, and that continuing on through 2029. I'll just briefly mention that we've been very active working with our tribal nations to apply for tribal-specific broadband grants, and have been very successful. Those tribes that were not successful or chose not to apply for broadband grants, we have helped them through the BEAD program to be able to ensure that all tribal households are connected. Final thing, before I wrap up is talking about digital skills and adoption. Ultimately, if you can't afford the internet, or if you don't know how to use a computer, or if you don't have a computer, then it can be very difficult, or there may not be a reason to subscribe to an internet service. And so one of the things that we're focused on as well is ensuring that Nevadans have the digital skills that they need in order to adopt. Adoption is a term that refers to someone not only subscribing to an internet service, but also using a computer in ways that will benefit their life, either staying in touch with family and friends, or accessing government benefits online, such as DMV, or understanding how to apply for a job or get workforce training, et cetera, online. So, and also staying safe and practicing good cybersecurity online as well, which is a topic of interest for our senior community. So, these projects are ongoing and are operating in parallel with the, construction and deployment. And then finally, there's some other federal funding sources that we're monitoring and potentially pursuing as well. Funding sources that are run out of the FCC and USDA. And with that, Madam Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for that information. I do believe we have some questions, and we will start with Assemblymember Haddock.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I do have some questions regarding the ARPA capital projects funds. According to the state's accounting system, as of like 2 weeks ago, there was approximately $133 million of unexpended ARPA capital project funds authority for both administrative and project costs. So can you just give us, I know you talked a little bit about timeline for BEAD and stuff, so can you just give us the status of the projects in which these funds have been subawarded and what the anticipated timeline is to spend the money?
Thank you. Brian Mitchell for the record, through you, Madam Chair, to Assemblymember Haddock. We've divided the capital projects funds into two different kind of project groups. One is the Middle Mile project, which I've scrolled back through my slides to show you the I-80 Middle Mile project. This is approximately 73 of the $133 million. This project is in permitting. We expect the permits to be completed through BLM this summer, after which construction will begin in earnest, and the route is scheduled to be completed by December of 2026. One thing I'll say about broadband projects generally is permitting is the long pole in the tent. So, and federal permitting, oftentimes we have to get permits at the county level or the municipal level, the state level with usually with NDOT, and then with any of the federal land management agencies where we're crossing federally owned land. County and municipal and state permits usually go extremely quickly. The federal permits can take a while, depending on the number of different federal agencies whose land we're crossing. And so, but this project is on track, and I think what you'll see is kind of a hockey stick level of growth of spending. Once the permit is complete, then construction begins, and construction goes very quickly. With regard to the remaining funds, there we go. About $55 million is supporting last mile connectivity, so connectivity to individual homes. And these projects have a lot less federal permitting because they're within neighborhoods, within cities. And so these projects were, or funding was awarded in December, and we expect construction to begin this summer and conclude next fall.
Thank you. And I have some follow-up questions now on the BEAD program. When you guys submitted our plans to the NTIA, did the Nevada plans include price caps?
Madam Chair, through you to Assemblymember. Sorry,
And you
it's
may
going to
go
be
directly.
It's 10 years of.
It's okay. You may go directly.
To Assemblymember Haddock. When you say price caps, what do you mean?
like price, because I remember, I mean, during the first Obama administration, there had been like substantial investment too in broadband to like underserved and unserved areas, and but that original one included price caps, and so what ended up happening was we subawarded, these grants to smaller companies who were going to do the work, but then couldn't, and then the project ended up failing. And so I was wondering if we had the same thing, right? Like if we had price caps in this plan that kept the bigger companies from like putting in an RFP, and did we subaward to just smaller sub-grantees, and are we going to have those same issues where they're not going to be able to complete the projects, and this historic investment in broadband isn't going to go anywhere? And if we did have price caps, what kind of like accountability measures are we doing to make sure that these projects by these smaller subawardees are being done on time, and that they're actually being done? Because this could be our only opportunity to get internet to every household in Nevada.
Assemblymember Hattigi, Brian Mitchell, for the record. I completely agree with you, and the only thing that really matters is deployment. And beyond deployment is uptake, right? Because even if we deploy a network and nobody signs up because they either can't afford it or they don't know about it, then we've truly failed. So we are extremely focused on deployment and deployment success. In our, the short answer to your question is no, there were no price caps. And as you can see from the list, there's several kind of recognizable large national companies that were awarded funds. I'm also proud that at the same time that local Nevada companies were awarded as well, and that these are companies that are already serving customers in Nevada successfully and are receiving funds to expand what they're doing elsewhere. Just, really briefly on our process. Our subgrantee selection process was extremely rigorous, where we evaluated the financial, managerial, operational, and technical capabilities of each one of the applicants that came in to ensure that they could indeed deliver on the network construction, not only the network construction, but the long-term operation and commercialization of the network. And so that process, we weeded out a lot of companies that we felt would not be able to deliver on a network and didn't make awards to them. So everyone that we've awarded, we have confidence in them that that they'll be able to that they'll be able to construct the network. One other thing that we're doing that I think is unique among states, at least among states that I'm aware of, is we have a team of project managers that reports to our director of operations, and these project managers work with each one of these subrecipients and provide a lot of oversight and support to them, so that as well as doing field inspections and field visits. And so as the networks are constructed, we're going to be keeping a very close eye on them to ensure that they are staying on track, and that the networks are built, according to the safety standards that we've mandated.
Do you have one more question?
I do.
I see it.
It's not so much a question. I just, this is a lot of projects, and I want to make sure that they're successful. And I don't just want to have this discussion now and then never follow up. And so, can you continuously keep, if it's not this body, it's interim finance committee, is there like 6 months project status updates that you can send us? Because we need to make sure that this is successful.
Assemblymember Hattigi, Brian Mitchell, for the record. I'm more than happy to provide updates on any cadence you wish. We also provide, we've published a statewide construction dashboard that we update on a monthly basis, that tracks, which segments of each route are in permitting, are in pre-construction, construction, and then completion. And so I'd be happy to provide I believe I have provided your staff with a link to that dashboard. And, and that's one way that we're publicly tracking how, kind of what kind of progress we're making on the construction of these networks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just, internet and broadband is so important. That's, you think about telehealth, you think about education, and this will be stuff that'll be available to Nevadans if we can get this right. So thank you so much for letting me ask these questions.
I appreciate the questions, and I believe Assemblymember Backus has a question.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I kind of share my colleagues' concerns about the little amount of money, especially of the ARPA funding, whether it was the capital projects funds or from the state allocated funds. And understanding, as you indicated, that construction will go quickly because we only have until December 31st, 2026 to spend these funds. And so with that, my question pertains to the sub-awardees for both the middle mile and the last mile that would be subject to this funding. Have contracts been entered into with each of those sub-awardees where there's some sort of clause where they understand that these projects have to be completed by December 31st, 2026? Is there some sort of remedy for the state if they don't complete these plans? Because what would be really embarrassing if we allocate all these funds and these fibers are not connected to homeowners and are just sitting in middle of Nevada. So I was just kind of curious on that.
Thank you for the question, Brian Mitchell, for the record. Yes, we have in our contracts with each of the providers that have received funds, we very clearly lay out when the funds expire and their obligations to complete the construction within the time frame that we've allotted. As I mentioned before, we have project managers that have been assigned to each one of these subrecipients. These project managers meet on a weekly or biweekly basis with each of the subrecipients to discuss progress and get updates on their construction schedules. We also require both daily location reports as well as weekly production reports from each of our subrecipients so that we're understanding at what rate they're going and what challenges they may be coming or facing, and then and then we can address and identify and remedy any challenges that are, right away, rather than, kind of saying, all right, well, go ahead and construct and we'll see you in December, right? So we're keeping a very close eye on these, and I'm satisfied with the progress that we're making so far, and I don't have any concerns that the networks will be built and the funds will be expended by the deadline.
Madam Chair, may I just clarify one thing? And this is just a yes or no. So do you feel comfortable that the contracts that have been entered into with each of the subrecipients provide assurances and protections for the state of Nevada that those funds will be expended and the work will be completed by December 31st, 2026?
Brian Mitchell, for the record, yes, I do.
Thank you very much, and I believe Assemblymember Brown May has a question.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. It's good to see you again.
Likewise.
I just broke the microphone. It's been a Friday. Already. Mr. Mitchell, you and I had a conversation at the interim committee relative to this. We were talking about the last mile funding and how are we meeting the needs of the inner city as we have this conversation now, and we're currently tracking the funding. I wasn't going to ask really the policy question in the money committee, but I'm curious to know how are we investing in that last mile in our urban neighborhoods that don't have access to broadband? And I know you were working on that. Do you have progress to report at this point?
Thank you for the question, Assemblymember Brown May. Brian Mitchell, for the record. I'm getting better at the Assemblymember thing. The federal rules are very strict about where we can vest the money. And in order for a particular location, they're called, in technical terms, they're called broadband serviceable locations, which essentially means a home or a place of business. The home must be eligible for funding based on what providers report to the FCC regarding where they serve today. And so when we initially went about deciding the first step in our subgrantee selection process was publishing a map of every location in the state we believed was eligible for funding because it did not meet the FCC's definition for having a broadband service. And that
Mr.
definition.
Mitchell, I'm going to cut you off. I appreciate that, right? We had that map. I'm curious to know, there were concerns from the city of Las Vegas in particular, and they had reached out to you because they felt like those homes did comply with that. They were asking you for help. Have you followed up on that? Have we had any progress there?
Assemblymember Brian Mitchell, for the record. I've met with the city of Las Vegas, and we've gone through the map, and I've explained to them where in the city of Las Vegas qualified for funding, and we received a bid for those locations, and those locations will be served.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Assemblymember Anderson, did you still have a question?
As opposed to breaking the microphone, I have to decide which one to use. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So you said that you had some reporting. What seems to be the common issues? Is it that some of the communities might not have the proper background? Because since you've got these reports, what are the common issues that you can possibly get in front of as it continues to move forward?
Assemblymember Anderson, when you say reporting, or what issue?
Thank you for that clarification. You were saying that you were having weekly report check-ins, daily check-ins. So with that many reports, you should be seeing that there are some commonalities. And then are you anticipating these commonalities for when you're planning the next stages?
Thank you for the clarification, Assemblymember Anderson. Brian Mitchell, for the record. I would say that once construction begins, we rarely see any issues. The weekly reports are mainly our production reports, so they tell us how many feet of fiber they've installed on in a given week. In our meetings, if there are any issues, then they're usually related to permitting, and simply because permitting takes time, and sometimes they have to resubmit information to a permitting entity because the permitting entity requires more information from them. So when it comes to the reports, I think they have production goals, and they have construction schedules, and we're looking at those reports to see if they're meeting their schedules to have things installed in a timely manner.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader Canizaro, I believe you have a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, I want to dig in a little bit more on these ARPA funds because I don't know that some of the answers that we've heard are measuring up to some of the data that we have in terms of the numbers. When it comes to ARPA funds, this agency has received, I think, $135.6 million in ARPA funds. To date, our information shows that $1.3 million has been spent relating to administrative costs, and $1.3 million has been spent relating to program project costs. Do I have those numbers correct?
Majority Leader Canizaro, Brian Mitchell, for the record. This specifically related to the Capital Projects Fund, yes.
Yes.
You do.
Okay. So that's a lot of money that has been sitting there for quite some time. Since at least the last legislative session, certainly during the interim prior to last legislative session, and then also this last interim. Multiple work programs at IFC, allocations from this legislative body. That is a very small amount of money that has been expended. If I'm hearing you correctly, you have every confidence that the remaining balance of this money is going to be expended, that you are comfortable and satisfied with the progress thus far, that there are weekly and even daily conversations about this project that would include, I would assume, conversations about the spending of these ARPA dollars. That as an answer doesn't really square with the numbers that we have in front of us. And obviously, as we are approaching a situation where we are in a legislative session and could reallocate ARPA dollars to other projects that could utilize the money. Money that has been sitting with you all for smaller chunks, interims, bigger chunk last legislative session, and an expenditure deadline of December 2026. Where is that confidence coming from, or am I mistaken that you have the confidence that you will be able to spend that money?
Senator Canizaro, Brian Mitchell for the record. I think it might be helpful to explain what types of projects the funding has been allocated to and where we are in each one of those.
I think that would be helpful because honestly, there is an extraordinary chunk of money sitting within your department that has not been utilized. And I'm trying to understand why it wouldn't make more sense for this body to take that money and do something else with it.
Senator Canizaro, Brian Mitchell for the record. Happy to explain, and I think, and hopefully this will alleviate, this explanation will alleviate any concerns that you have about the ability of our office to spend the funds. Of the capital projects funds of the $135 million the state received, we've awarded $73.6 million to the middle mile route that will build fiber along I-80. We have a contract. That provider is doing the has completed the engineering work. They have submitted the permits to BLM. We have gone back and forth with BLM a number of times, and we're expecting the permit to be completed for this route this summer.
So is it your contention that because there is a contract in place that those funds have been expended?
Senator Canizaro, Brian Mitchell for the record. Contract in place, meaning that the funds have been obligated. However, we do not, no money goes out the door until there's actually been, until the provider has either hit a milestone or has expended funding itself in order to be reimbursed.
So what does your weekly and daily conversations regarding that indicate to you that money is actually going to go out the door?
We have a detailed construction schedule with this particular provider for this route. That construction schedule is based on the engineering that was done, and once the permit has received, the permit has to be received before we can put shovels in the ground. Once the permit is received, then the construction will begin, and we'll start to see a significantly faster spend down on the grant. So the engineering and the permitting is relatively small dollars compared to construction.
So when is it that we would expect to see this money expended?
The second half, Brian Mitchell for the record, the second half of calendar year 2025, I would expect a significant increase in the amount of funding.
The second half of calendar year 2025?
So starting this summer.
So within the next few months, we would expect to see 73 million of the 130 some odd million that is left to be expended.
Senator Canizaro, Brian Mitchell for the record. We would expect to see a significant increase in the spending rate starting this summer. So the network will be constructed between, we'll start construction this summer, we'll conclude construction next fall or next winter, and which is in line with our construction schedule. And so once the permit is received, then we'll start to see a significant increase in the amount of money that the provider is invoicing us each month.
So at some point this summer, we'll see some of those funds expended. And you're anticipating that all of those funds will be expended by the expenditure deadline set for those funds. But we do not have a clear picture of exactly when and how that is going to happen.
Brian Mitchell for the record. The permit has to be received before we can start construction. And so that permit.
So yes, I understand that there are permits, but in terms of spending the money, the issue that I am trying to get at is that there is a significant amount of money sitting here that either is going to go back to the federal government if we do not spend it, or that you have a good plan to, in a very short period of time, expend a lot of money. That money has been sitting there for a long period of time. So where is it that you can give this body confidence that in a much shorter period of time than you have already been sitting there with this money, that it is actually going to get spent?
Brian Mitchell for the record. It might be helpful if I start at the beginning. When the state received the funds, we did a needs assessment, and then following a needs assessment, we had to procure a vendor that would assist us with the procurement of the vendor that would build the network. And so once we went out to the bidding process, we went out to bid, we selected the vendor that would build the network, and that vendor was selected about 8 months ago. And so that vendor has since been working on the engineering and design and the permitting. We expect the permitting next month, or excuse me, this summer, after which construction will start, and that's when the money will really be spent.
I'm sure you would agree with me that having a substantial sum of money for that period of time and being presented today with, to date, 2.6 million of it being expended over several years is highly concerning. I continue to have questions about whether or not we are going to be able to spend this money because it doesn't sound to me like there is a very concrete plan. Some of the answers that we've received today are that permits have been in place, that we're in the process of permitting, that now we have to have these permits. How it is that it has taken this long to try to get to that point, I'm not sure I understand the wisdom of. I also have some significant concerns with the idea that we are somehow going to just spend all of this money in a year and a half-ish, and whether or not we are going to end up sending a significant chunk of money back to the federal government, because it sounds to me like that's a pretty tight construction schedule that could be derailed by something as incidental as the weather. I'm not sure that I can continue to ask questions and get the same answers. My concern remains. I don't know that that has been alleviated by what we've heard today. That's a significant portion of money that I 100% do not want to see go back to the federal government. And that question, I think, still remains with me. Thank you, Madam Chair. I know I've taken a bit of the committee's time, but I appreciate the indulgence.
Thank you very much. And we will go to Chair Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Mitchell, I got to tell you, I share the concerns that you're hearing from a number of the members of this committee, and just piggybacking off of the majority leader's questions. And some of my questions, and I'm going to have a few if that's okay, Madam Chair, are simple yes or no. I don't need a long explanation, right? So first, do you have the permits, yes or no? Because I've heard both in your comments today. Do you have permits secured for work to begin?
Madam Chair, Brian Mitchell, we have many permits, but not all of the permits.
Okay. And when you say many permits, expand upon that. Many permits. What does that mean?
Madam Chair, Brian Mitchell for the record. We've applied for and received 157 permits. We're still waiting on 21 permits from BLM.
Okay, and with those permits that have been received, the 157, how soon do you expect the work to begin? Because there's a lot of money obligated, but not a lot of money spent. So when will the work begin on those 157 permits that you already have received?
Madam Chair, Brian Mitchell for the record. The construction has already begun in areas where all of the permits have been received. So if you think about a given segment of a route, there may be multiple permits that are needed. For example, a permit from a local government, a permit from NDOT, and a permit from the BLM because part of the route crosses BLM land. You can't start construction on a part of a segment without having every permit in place. So in many cases, we've received every necessary permit and construction has started. For example, just in the last few weeks, we received all of the necessary clearances for a portion of the route between Wells, Nevada, and Jackpot. And we've also received all of the clearance for a portion of the route in the last few weeks between Silver Springs and Carson City. Those construction has begun in earnest, and we just haven't received the invoices yet to pay. There are other parts of the route where we've received permits from NDOT and from the local governments, but not from BLM, and so construction hasn't started yet.
Okay, so you received the money approximately 4 years ago. It's taken 4 years to get some of those permits. In those areas that you have all the permits needed for the work to be done, you have contracts and subawardees for contracts that the state will be on the hook for paying, correct? All that's in place?
Correct.
Okay. Here's my biggest thing. We're living at a time where from day to day, when I wake up and see my morning news from the time I get here for my first meeting at 7 a.m., things change coming out of Washington, D.C. Earlier this week, right in the middle of a committee meeting, $35 million of grant money was pulled from the state of Nevada, resulting in laying off employees and shutting down programs that were in the work. The people got the money, spent it in a timely manner to put programs in place. Didn't take 4 years to do it. But now those programs are shut down. We're laying people off. And you're sitting on a whole heck of a lot of money that's been obligated but not spent. And then if we enter into contracts that you say you've entered into, there's going to be an obligation for us to pay. What is the liability on us to have to pay those contracts if the money is taken away from us because you have taken 4 years and haven't spent it?
Madam Chair, Brian Mitchell for the record. I'll share that the process, our process was one that involved a lot of community and public input. We followed all of the state's procurement rules and regulations, and as well as the federal rules for awarding the funds, and these things take time. And in fact, the BEAD program was estimated to be as an 8-year program for an 8-year rollout. So I think in terms of the time that has been taken, there are very few other states that are moving as fast as we are in terms of the rollout. The one good thing about broadband is that in all of the conversations that are happening within industry and within the federal government, that there's no conversation about the federal government clawing back or taking away, or there's no rumors about any of the broadband funds being taken away. This is a priority for the administration, and I'm confident that that these funds will stay with the state.
Madam Chair? Please. I appreciate your confidence. I must tell you, I don't have that confidence. And it concerns me that I don't hear the urgency in your voice and in your presentation as to how we move forward with this. You did mention the BEAD and monies that have been expended, but of the $421.7 million in the BEAD program funds, $28.6 million were set aside for the administrative costs. Can you explain the expenditures for that $28.6 million in it?
Certainly, Brian Mitchell for the record, I'd be happy to. The expenditures can be categorized as follows. We'll have expenditures related to a number of different project managers that will operate regionally throughout the state that will, over the next 4 years, oversee and manage all of the individual grantees or subrecipients to ensure that they are successful. So that includes monitoring all of the reporting that comes in, and also doing site visits, meeting with local and federal and state permitting stakeholders, and so on. We also have funding set aside for, there's a significant amount of federal grant and audit responsibilities, and so we have funding set aside to comply with under 2 CFR 200 our reporting and audit responsibilities when reporting to the federal government. We also have grant management funding set aside to audit and manage all of the federal grants, looking down at the subrecipient to ensure that the funds that are being spent are being spent correctly. The state has, NTIA has assigned all states the responsibility to be a joint lead agency for NEPA, which is the National Environmental and Historic Preservation Act. And so the state has a responsibility to for BEAD projects specifically, to certify that every permitting application that is submitted is done correctly, which is an expense to the state that we're paying for out of grant funds. We also have funding set aside for public engagement so that the public understands where and when the networks are being built, including producing GIS mapping resources that will not only share a production report for where projects are coming online, but then we'll also share more information about where folks can go and sign up for internet resources. Finally, we have funding set aside for skills and adoption, and utilizing someone to coordinate with local communities to help get folks signed up and understanding how to use the internet and how to and how to use the internet to benefit their lives.
Thank you for that list. I think my last question, you have the timeline. I don't know which page of it is, but this timeline. If I understand it correctly, all of the ARPA funding has to be spent, not just obligated, but we need to spend it by December of '26.
Yes.
But BEAD goes to 2032, is that correct?
2039.
2039. Okay. And do you anticipate any challenges, do you foresee any challenges that you're going to have with this estimated timeline that we're going to be able to, I don't work in construction, but I see how, and everything here seems like it goes past its estimated date and costs us more money. Are you going to be able to, I don't know, put like your foot on the pedal to make sure that we're able to get these projects done, spend the ARPA dollars within the window of time that we have left, which is only about 18, 19 months, right? And then the timeline for BEAD, that you were on schedule for this timeline?
Madam Chair, Brian Mitchell for the record. I think I have not done a good job in this hearing of conveying the urgency that I feel to get these funds expended and to get people connected. Not because I'm worried that necessarily that we will run out of time, but more we need to get people connected. You know, there's so many people in the state who don't have the kind of connectivity that they need, that we truly need to move quickly on this. We have regular conversations where we are pushing our providers to do more and to move faster. We have conversations with the state BLM office on a regular basis about the permits. I was corresponding just yesterday with the director of or the acting director of the state office that's in charge of telecommunication programs. We have conversations with our federal counterparts, and with Senator Rosen and Senator course, has massed those offices about ways that we can reform the permitting process in DC so that these things can move faster. One thing I'll mention is that unlike other construction, either of wet utilities or roads, construction of fiber optic networks is actually very quick. It's burying about 1.25 inch cable, 24 to 36 inches in the ground, and they're able to make very quick progress on the construction of these. And so, we, based on the conversations that we're having with our providers and with our contractors, looking at our construction schedules, as soon as we get a permit, the contractors are immediately building on that route so they can knock it out and be ready for when the next permit comes in so that they can immediately move their crews to the next route. And so all of those things are things we're keeping an extremely close eye on. And I would be more than happy to appear before this committee or before the IFC at any frequency you wish to provide updates beyond those that we're already providing.
Thank you for that, and we will definitely have you back with a regular frequency with updates. But my last question, Madam Chair, is this. Worst case scenario, if the funding were pulled, I know you don't anticipate that it will. There's no rumors, but that rumor could be next week. We don't know. Worst case scenario, if the funding is pulled, do you have a backup plan?
Madam Chair, Brian Mitchell, a backup plan to complete the networks. This is close to $1 billion total for broadband. So I think if the and we're wholly reliant on the federal funding. So if the federal government were to come tomorrow and pull back all the money, let me say this: the reason I don't think that is going to happen is because the federal government, the funding that we have for broadband is different perhaps than other funding sources where it has been directly appropriated to the state by Congress and Congress as opposed to by the administration. And so the funding is in a dedicated bank account, so to speak, and the funds, we have an enforceable obligation for those. And so it would take an act of Congress to repeal the funding source for the program in order for these broadband funds to be removed from the state. And there just isn't 60 votes in the Senate to repeal these programs. Again, all of the conversations in DC are that these projects are important to the administration and that they want to see them through.
I really do appreciate your optimism. I was once the vice chair of Optimist International, so I truly appreciate your optimism. However, I think we're living in a time where what was normal a year ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago is no longer normal. We've seen things that are happening in DC that should take congressional oversight to change, that are being changed, and that's going into litigation. I would appreciate you, and you said you may not have had the urgency in your voice, I haven't heard it, to be very mindful of how you move with this and do it with an urgency, because I don't know. I don't have the assurity that you have that the funding will remain to get this project done. And this is something that's really needed in the state of Nevada, right? And we've taken 4 years to get almost nowhere. When you look at it on paper, that's what it looks like. And I know there's been a lot of work done by you to get to where we are now. But on paper, it looks like nothing's happened or very little has happened. So we need to get a lot of things happening as quickly as possible, put those dollars in the ground for the constituency that we all service. And I'm sorry if my tone came off as rude or condescending. I didn't mean that. I'm just very, very worried. It's a lot of money to do a lot of good in our state. I don't want to see this money go away because it's happened earlier this week and affects people's lives. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Senator Titus, did you have a question?
I did. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity. First and foremost, Mr. Director, I actually find it a little bit ironic that just a week or so ago, a subcommittee of this body grilled part of the executive branch because $9 million was awarded for broadband too quickly, and the person ran away with the money. Having said that, I appreciate that you are paying a lot of details to these contracts. My question for you is, I know that it's very difficult in any industry, let's say mining or anytime you dig in the ground, you have to get these permits, and these permits take a ridiculous amount of time to go through county, BLM, Forest Service, public access, highway areas. Is that has been the biggest time commitment, is that permitting process?
Thank you for the question, Senator Titus. Brian Mitchell. And yes, above all, we want to be very careful with the taxpayer dollar and ensure that every dollar that goes out from the state is expended properly for the proper purpose. The permitting is without a doubt, and specifically the federal permitting is without a doubt the longest point or the longest part of the process. And this is not unique to Nevada. It's a Western issue, and that's just the reality. Is that we have a lot. We're 86% federal land here, as all of you know, and that process simply takes a long time. And our state BLM office is understaffed, and does not have the resources to put these permits through as fast as we would like them to.
But you have all the permits necessary now, is that correct?
Senator Titus, Brian Mitchell, we have submitted all of the permits. All of the permits are working their way through the process. We anticipate all of those. We anticipate that, and again, every week, we're getting a new permit, which is then facilitating our ability to go out and quickly begin construction. And so those, I think, we are seeing those permits come on an expedited basis.
So for one brief follow-up on that, if I might, Madam Chair. I drive by this process every day on 395, and it is a rapid process when they get those, putting this cable in and digging in that ground, and there's a lot of work, but it's all below ground, and it does move pretty fast as it moves along. I'm looking at this map that you had with these, and I have 6 counties that I represent, and there's a significant amount of area there that needs to be done. And so I just hope, and I share concerns that with this committee that it needs to be spent, but I also am glad that you have been cautious about allocating it. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, and we'll go to Senator Wynn.
Thank you. I'm not going to repeat some of these concerns. Obviously, I share the concerns that we have about the fact that this is a significant amount of money that needs to be spent in such a short window of time. I'm looking at the subcontracts that you have. Have contracts been entered with every single one of these people that you are the subcontractors that you provided to this committee?
Senator Wynn, are you referring to the BEAD subrecipients
Yes.
on the list up on the television?
Yeah, the middle mile, Zito Media, Sky Fiber Internet, Valley Electric Association, Zio, State Middle Mile Equipment. I mean, all the way down the thing, including Beehive Broadband, AT&T. What kind of contracts have been entered with all of those? Have contracts been entered with all those subcontractees?
Senator Wynn, Brian Mitchell for the record. Yes. So contracts have been entered into for all of the middle mile projects. The BEAD for all of the BEAD recipients. We announced awards in January and are in contract negotiations with most of those. We have entered into contracts with some. Or I should say we are, we have entered into the contracts but they need to be approved by the federal government first.
Okay. So can you provide this committee with a list of people who we have actually entered into contracts with and those that have pending contracts?
Brian Mitchell, for the record, I'd be happy to.
Okay. The other thing that I'm wondering is if we were to break those contracts with those people that we have entered into contracts with, what is our liability at this point if we were to break those contracts?
Senator Wynn, Brian Mitchell, for the record. If we were to break contracts, the state would be liable for any costs to date that have been incurred but not yet invoiced. And the state would have a partially completed network with nothing to show for it.
So if we had problems, and I guess the same thing goes for the last mile project part of it as well. Have we entered into those contracts as well? I mean, that's a more significant portion of those ARPA funds, totaling about 103 million. So are those in a similar position, or have we not even engaged in those contracts yet?
All of that is, Brian Mitchell, for the record, all of those contracts are, for the last mile, are being worked through right now in conjunction with the BEAD funds.
So we have it's fair to say that the middle mile is progressing a little bit further along than where we are on this last mile.
Senator Wynn, Brian Mitchell, for the record. In order for us to get the best pricing for last mile, not only for the construction, but also for the monthly recurring cost, we did the middle mile first. So that way, last mile providers who need that middle mile infrastructure in order to build off of it to the residential communities, they would be able to understand where the middle mile networks would be and be able to then price based on the infrastructure we're already building. So yes, middle mile came first, and then it's like building a state highway before you build a neighborhood road.
Okay. And so with respect to any liability that we might have if we're not able to expend these funds, or we were to make a decision as this body to pull those funds because we did not believe they would be able to be expended by that given date about 18 months from now, the only thing we would be out is any costs that they have already incurred on those contracts that are actually contracted.
Now that I understand, Brian Mitchell, for the record, and Senator Wynn, now that I understand your question a little bit better, let me more fully explain. Okay. Should the state decide to pull money, not only would we be out the money that has been incurred but not expensed for yet, it would on the middle mile contracts, it would likely jeopardize the entire BEAD program because those networks would not be built, and therefore providers who had submitted bids based on being able to interconnect into networks that are planned but through the middle mile would then not, their bids would no longer be good because they bid a certain amount of money in order to interconnect into that network, which would no longer exist. For the ARPA funds that are tied in with the BEAD funds, as you know, the BEAD program requires a 25% match. And if the state were to pull the 25% match, then our approved NTIA plan would be thrown into jeopardy, and we would no longer have access to those BEAD funds.
So with the exception of that $100 million in ARPA funds that's used for that BEAD match-like requirement, there are some contractual obligations that we have, and then it sounds like there are still quite a few of these subcontractees that we haven't finalized contracts with. Is that correct?
Senator Nguyen, Brian Mitchell, on the last mile side, yes, we are still finalizing some of the contracts.
I just share my concerns. On the existing projects where you're talking about, obviously you're using some of this basis. I know that like Valley, I think it's Valley Electric has been moving along parts of this project. I know Senator Titus had mentioned how it moves quickly. When obviously we sit here and we talk about how there are so many delays and delays and delays and delays on construction projects. So based on the lines that have been, like, what kind of timeline do you expect upon like finalization of the permitting to how much of this line can be, I guess, the construction part, like how fast does that like actually work based on the existing projects and the existing laying of line that we have so far to date?
Senator Nguyen, Brian Mitchell for the record. The rate of construction depends on a number of different factors, including whether it's aerial or underground, and the soil conditions. Is the soil rocky and they need to bore versus softer soil where they can plow? And so there isn't kind of a standard, rate that can be applied. Having said that, every individual project has been engineered and they have an understanding of how they're going to go about doing things. And every construction schedule that we have has a completion date in advance of the expiration date of the funds.
This kind of, I guess my question is was it always anticipated that you would not receive all the full permitting for all of these projects until the end of summer? Or did you have, I remember having these conversations during the interim and the dates were a lot sooner. And so now we're sitting here today in the middle of session where we can actually do something to address any of these potential delays, to make sure that we don't have to send this money back. Do you have any concerns with some of the effects at the federal government that the permitting process will continue to be delayed? Like, if we're sitting here in December and we still don't have permitting, do you still think that we will be able to complete this project? Because right now your timeline says that you expect to complete and expend these monies by late fall, December, like winter of 2026, which is like minutes before that deadline where we have to expend those funds. So what do you anticipate? I mean, history has taught us that this is taking a lot longer than we thought it was going to take, and I appreciate your diligence and being cautious about entering into these contracts, but do you have any concerns that we are not going to get these permits by the end of the summer?
Brian Mitchell for the record. Thanks for the question, Senator Nguyen. I don't. The conversations that we're having with BLM are progressing, and the folks at BLM understand the urgency of the situation and the expiration date of the funds. They are doing their due diligence, not as fast as what I would like to see, but we are continually pushing on BLM to and following up with them, to get these permits issued to us so that we can move forward. As I've said, I think we've received a number of permits just in the last couple of weeks that have enabled us to start construction on major portions of these routes. That you don't see in the budget numbers yet because we just haven't. The subrecipients haven't expended the costs yet in order to get reimbursed. So in terms of our, the expected timeline, would I have liked to have seen all of the permits issued months ago? Absolutely, 100%. Do I think that the situation where we're at with the permits now jeopardizes our ability to expend the funds? No, I don't.
Chair, may I ask a separate question? Right. I'm going to totally shift gears. Obviously, this office has previously been responsible for graduate medical education. We are looking at that, and I know that there is efforts, obviously, to move this out and transition this out of OSET. So I'm going to skip to that, but I'm going to, just in the context, obviously your office deals with broadband and projects like of $1 billion nature like this. And then you also have graduate medical education, which it sounds like there is an effort to move that out, which I think is rightfully so. But you also have this STEM education program. Can you talk about why this office and this agency is best equipped to handle this and not the Department of Education?
Senator Nguyen, is your question why our office is best equipped to handle STEM specifically? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for the question, Senator Nguyen. Brian Mitchell for the record. I guess going way back in history, in 2014, there was a report by the Brookings Institution that indicated that Nevada needed a people strategy or a STEM strategy to accompany a lot of the good work that was being done by the Governor's Office of Economic Development at the time in reshaping and diversifying the economy. It was around that time that Tesla came to Nevada and the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center took off. Our office was specifically created to be the state's STEM strategy and to be a kind of almost a special forces type of agency to tackle, to identify specific needs for STEM education and workforce programs, rather than those being housed at the Department of Education, which is more of a regulatory and a body that passes through federal funding to schools. And I think over the years we've been extremely successful in identifying needs throughout the community and then meeting those needs with the funding that the legislature has given us to do so.
What kind of coordination do you do with the Department of Education to ensure that there isn't like duplicative, like programming and outreach and other grants? I mean, full disclosure, I just don't understand why this is not housed within the Department of Education as they are tasked with education, including STEM education programming as well.
Thank you for the question, Senator Nguyen. Brian Mitchell for the record. Over the last decade, OSET has had a very close relationship with the Department of Education in coordination on STEM, and OSET has taken the lead on STEM, and the department has taken a more of a supporting role in our administration. And so we have a number of different partnerships, but we have a liaison at the department to ensure that there's no duplication of efforts. The department does not have any STEM grants or any STEM programming, but rather the department supports the work of OSET in the work that we're doing with schools in STEM. One good example of that is a recent effort of collaboration where we worked together to develop a licensure endorsement specifically for STEM, so that teachers who are passionate about STEM can get a licensure or a specific endorsement on their licensure, which counts toward in moving them up the pay scale and so on.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And I don't think we see any more questions, and I won't jump on the bandwagon about why some of this isn't in the DOE versus this department, but we'll go there another day. I'd like to switch gears and go to E900 and E903, the Graduate Medical Education Program. And the 82nd, or the 2023 legislature, we approved general funds of $8.5 million to support the GME grant program through this last biennium of 23-25. And I'm understanding that the agency has given away only 1.2 million of that 8.5 million. And I'm concerned because we have talked about GMEs with much urgency and getting those done so that we can get that program going. So can you explain why that hasn't been expended?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the question. Brian Mitchell for the record. So when I was before you 2 years ago in this body, I explained the problem that we have with GME, which is that these, when we award GME grants, it takes 4 to 5 years in order to build a program, but we had funds that, that we were not able to roll over biennia to biennia. And so the end result of that is that if this committee or if the legislature awards $8.5 million and we $8.5 million for GME and then we make $8.5 million worth of grants, then if those subrecipients do not spend all of the $8.5 million in the 2 years, which they can't because it simply takes these programs longer to build, then we have to revert the money at the end of the biennia, and which then means that we're unable to award a full cohort of grants when the funds arrive at the next legislature. So I believe it is my recollection that we agreed last biennia that there would be language inserted into the Appropriations Act that would allow us to roll those funds over. In 2020, in July of 2023, when I asked the Administrative Services Division to balance forward, or rather in June, when I asked the Administrative Services Division to balance forward unspent dollars for GME, I was informed that they weren't able to do so because there wasn't authority. And so I don't know where we went through and worked with your staff, and it turns out that language had not been inserted into the bill. And so I don't know what happened or who was at fault, but the bottom line is that even though we had awarded the funds, we were unable to carry those funds over and make new awards this biennium because we had to revert the most of the money from last biennium back to the general fund. So this biennium we have I've pulled up the current subgrantees on the list, and we have continued to fund these subgrantees that we awarded last biennium out of this biennium's funding.
So when you say you don't know whose fault it is, I understand that, but it's in your department and you're the director. So at some point, I guess I would be looking to you for answers. So will the entire $8.5 million then be appropriated for the program and expended by the end of the fiscal year, 2025? Is that what I'm hearing you say, or did I misunderstand that?
Madam Chair, when I say I don't know whose fault it is, I don't know who drafted the bill, and I understood that we had an agreement that the funds would be, or that language would be inserted into the bill,
and I'm
somebody
sorry
didn't
to
do that.
interrupt you, but we're not going to throw stones at LCB and bill writing for sure in this committee.
Nor do I know that
You
it
just
was
said that,
necessarily
sir.
their fault.
You just said that, sir.
With regard to this year's funding, we have continued to pay for the expenses of these grantees. The governor has included $8.5 million in his budget. If we are able if the legislature allows us to carry over funding from this fiscal year forward, that funding, which is obligated to these subgrantees, would then the funding that is rolled over will continue to pay to build those programs, and the state would have a new $8.5 million to award to create new GME programs.
Okay. I am going to go to Senator Nguyen.
Thank you for your patience and allowing me another question about this topic. Can you tell us what you did as far as other aspects of some of the legislation that passed during the 23 session about conveying that advisory group? together. Were you ever able to convey that advisory group? I know that at some point during the interim, I think it was at IFC, it still had not been brought together. Even though there were some issues with the appropriation and the ability to roll over that money, which I think was always the intent of the legislation. What other aspects did you do to put us in a better position so moving forward we would be able to have that advisory committee? And so coming into this session, we would be able to correct some of those mistakes and be ready to go into the next, I guess, biennium.
Thank you, Senator Nguyen, for the question. Brian Mitchell for the answer. In the last session, we communicated the need to have a dedicated GME staff person that would be able to implement a GME plan, and the legislature agreed and funded that position. We and you and I have spoken about this offline about our difficulties in hiring that particular position, and so we were finally able to hire the position in October of this past year, and the person came on board in December, and so in the meantime, the governor made the appointments to the GME committee, and when the GME staff person came on board, they began to work on the GME strategic plan, and then there are a number of bills before the legislature this year that would change the composition of the GME program. And so we've held off on holding a GME committee meeting because of the uncertainty around kind of the future administrative structure of the program.
I mean, I recognize the difficulty in finding someone that had the skill set to be able to do this. But ultimately, in the day, as the director of this agency, I mean, the buck stops with you to be able to step in. What did you do in your role when you were not able to do that? Were we just not doing anything in this area? It sounds like we just weren't doing anything in this area to see if there were other things that we could begin expending some of that money, knowing that maybe it would not be renewed going into the next legislative session. But the fact that we weren't able to expend any of that $8.5 million that was allocated, even given the fact that there weren't any rollovers, it seems like we didn't do anything from the end of session in 23 to as we're sitting here today. So I'm wondering, is there anything that we did, that you did, in order to position us to make different decisions moving into this legislative session?
Senator Nguyen, Brian Mitchell, for the record. So the with regard to the $8.5 million that was appropriated last session, we actually have been spending that money on the current group of grantees. And so those funds essentially became obligated to the current group rather than being able to award a new group of a new cohort or a new set of grants. So in the sense of being able to, when you talk about doing things to move things forward. Really, our focus has been on, because there was no new money, so to speak, that came in, the focus has been on working with the current grantees on their programs, and then working with the governor's office on setting up a new structure for GME moving forward.
So, and that's that 1.2 million that you allocated of that 8.5 that is remaining. Is that my understanding? I'm just a little disappointed that we weren't able to utilize those funds, and now they're reverting back. Obviously, that wasn't our intention to revert back, but it still seems like there could have been efforts to do that. So I'm curious to see, I know in talking with other stakeholders, they felt like your office was not engaged, your agency was not engaged with the medical schools, the hospitals, in order to figure out ways to expend that money given the fact that it wasn't going to roll over into the next biennium unless we make changes this legislative cycle. So more of a comment than anything, but thank you, Chair, for your indulgence.
Thank you very much. Are there any more questions on this particular subject? All right, with that, we will close the budget hearing on 1003, and we will go to our last presentation of the day, Governor's Office of Economic Development. And I will welcome Tom Burns, Executive Director of GOED, to the table this morning, and anyone with him. We'll be hearing 6 GOED budget accounts, 15, 26, 27, 31, 32, 33, and 4867. We'll take a slight pause between each budget presentation so we can ask some questions, but please proceed when you're ready.
Very good. Thank you, Chair Dondero Lupin and Monroe Moreno. Good morning. My name is Tom Burns, T-O-M-B-U-R-N-S. I'm the Executive Director of the Governor's Office of Economic Development. I have with me here Karsten Heinz, who's the Director of Innovative-Based Economic Development, as well as our Administrative Controller, Angie Matheson, for subject matter expertise as needed. So thank you for your indulgence on this chilly Friday morning here in Carson City. The Nevada Governor's Office of Economic Development was created in the 2011 legislature. The NRS Charter aims to diversify and strengthen our economy while fostering high-quality jobs for Nevadans, encouraging the creation and expansion of business in Nevada and the relocation of businesses to our state, coordinating and overseeing all economic development programs within the state, and ensuring that programs are consistent with the state plan of economic development. Our mission is to create high-quality jobs for Nevadans, to foster an economy that is vibrant, innovative, sustainable, with high-paying jobs and great quality of life for all Nevadans. Next slide, please. This slide shows the 3 focuses of an effective economic development: business development, workforce development, and community development. When we released our plan targeting 5 strategic areas and sectors that will help diversify Nevada's economy, we are working to fill the business development box. For example, by creating advanced manufacturing or logistics companies to the state, we are creating new job opportunities for Nevada with higher earning potential and greater resiliency in an economic downturn. Next, we fill the workforce box. Our annual survey of top 10 important criteria for businesses looking to relocate or expand their operations to somewhere else, workforce is always at the top. It's one of the greatest assets of the state that we have in creating and attracting new businesses and high-paying jobs. That is why our Workforce Development Division works with Nevada's higher education institutions, alongside with industry leaders, such as public-private partnerships, to ensure we're preparing Nevada's workforce with the necessary skills and knowledge to supply the state's current future workforce needs. Lastly, we fill in the community development box. You can't have economic development without community development. We've successfully attracted businesses here, and we have educated and trained the workforce, but that all means nothing if we don't have an adequate infrastructure, schools, hospitals, public services, and somewhere for those workers to live. Maybe one of the more important and underappreciated aspects of economic development is community development, but it is clearly among the most important. If all this is done correctly, the result is a better quality of life for our residents and an increased producer and consumer spending. This all leads to increased state and local taxes for the state of Nevada. Slide 4. Building off the last slide, GOED currently works to fill each of these 3 boxes mentioned with dedicated programs and tools that get us to the end goal: high-quality jobs for Nevada and increased local and state revenues. Showcased on this chart are targeted GOED programs that make sure businesses, both existing and new, have the tools they need to succeed here. Each one contributes to an economic development. At GOED, we want to create resilient, diversified, and thriving economy for all Nevadans. By continuing to foster business-friendly environment, investing in workforce development, and supporting our communities through many of these avenues, we are ensuring that Nevada remains a top destination for business and talent to come here for years to come. Next slide, please. This slide shows that the agency's current funding source, general fund appropriations of approximately 60%, federal funding is about 30%, and other sources are right at 10%. I would also like to note here that we are having ongoing conversations with our federal partners, and we are confident of continuation of these programs. Other funding sources are in the Opportunity Fund, which were established by Senate Bill 126 in the 2017 legislature with general fund appropriations. These funds have a balance forward from year to year. This slide also represents the change in funding sources for the Nevada Film Office outlined in Enhancement Unit E541. Next slide, please. Our office works to diversify and strengthen the state's economy by attracting companies to Nevada, assisting in retention and expansion of existing companies, providing support to startups, and developing the workforce that will fill jobs in Nevada's future. GOAD also partners with higher education to increase the research and development commercialization opportunities for targeted Nevada industries. The office works closely with local, state, regional, and statewide entities to achieve these goals, which includes expanding global exports and increased foreign investment in Nevada. The Office of Entrepreneurship, established through Assembly Bill 77 of the 82nd Legislature, has engaged the state agencies and entrepreneurial support organizations to explore and establish baseline small business challenges and aspirations as it relates to growing entrepreneurship through existing and future policies and programs in our state. The following enhancement units were requested in the fiscal year 25-27 biennium budget. E226 funds the expansion of the Office of Entrepreneurship. The request asks for both for in-state and out-of-state travel for community outreach, support, and professional networking. E227, a new long-term fleet services vehicle for Northern Nevada staff to use when they're traveling to meetings throughout the state. Funding the E229, funding for the annual Select USA trade show in Washington, D.C. E230, increased funding to assume liability of the remaining office in our Carson City office. This space was being rented to a nonprofit organization, and they will not be renewing their lease due to the change in their staffing, where they no longer have the number of employees in Carson City. They have moved to Las Vegas. In addition, financial functions that have been contracted with the CPA firm and no longer have the accounting staff in that office. E249 requests a new position, Outreach and Innovation System Manager for the Office of Entrepreneurship to lead public outreach and engagement. E710, computer and/or software replacement per the OCO's recommended schedule. Slide 7.
Mr. Burns, do you want to pause right there?
Yes,
I think
ma'am.
we have some questions on that particular item.
Very good.
And then we'll go on to 1527. And I believe Assembly Member Torres Fawcett has a couple questions.
Hi, sorry about that. I saw the other slide and I was like, wait, I didn't know that we were on 1527. And I was very confused. So going back to item 1526, I know that the Office of Entrepreneurship does quite a bit of work with small businesses. And so I'm trying to understand the overlap between this office and the Office of Small Business Advocacy within the Office of Lieutenant Governor, and how those offices are truly different.
Yes. Madam Chair, is it appropriate to address directly?
Goes straight to the member.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Member Torres Fawcett, there are candidly some overlaps. We work closely with Lieutenant Governor's office to work in conjunction in those things. But sometimes there can be a distinction between entrepreneurship, which is in a startup mode, and an established small business that may have been around for a number of years. But there's nonetheless, there will be some overlap.
Thank you. Can you be a little bit more specific? Like, where is that overlap exactly?
Yes, Assemblywoman Tom Burns, for the record. Being only modestly familiar with the job in the Lieutenant Governor's office, I can speak to a couple of things. It's not comprehensive, and I'm not withholding. I just am not overly familiar. Certainly there are items when working with local municipalities as it relates to licensing regulation, as well as reviewing and searching for funding responsibilities.
Thank you. And do you think that your office would be able to carry on some of the duties that the Small Business Advocacy Office currently does? Would that office be able to do that? I mean, it might require some additional funding, but would your office be capable of doing that work?
Assemblymember Tom Burns, for the record. Yes, I mean, that's a space that we play in quite a bit, and we'd be comfortable in there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I have just a couple more questions. Can you talk about the metrics that your office uses to track the results of state investments in supporting entrepreneurship in the state?
Sure. Let me go to Assemblymember Tom Burns, for the record. I did bring some notes on that. Yeah, I may refer this to Karsten Heinz as the entrepreneurship report stamp.
Good morning, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Karsten Heinz. That's spelled Karstenheise. And the Office of Entrepreneurship is part of the Innovation-Based Economic Development Division. So all things entrepreneurial, startup, as well as traditional small businesses is what we are taking care of. So to answer your question, Assemblymember Torres-Fawcett, I need to go one step back and sort of describe a little bit about what entrepreneurship really means, because that sort of is directly impinging upon what metrics we are tracking. So as an entrepreneur, you're building your own company, very early stages, and you are dependent on resources that are not under your control. So these resources you get from your entrepreneurial ecosystem, we call it. And to really track the success of our initiatives, you need to look then in what those resources that are the system is offering, how can that be successful? How can that then have a positive effect on the individual small business or startup? So what we are tracking, to really answer your question directly, and doing that, we also working with national institutions that are renowned, like the Center for Regional Economic Competitiveness, and the experts in actively tracking ecosystems. This is why I will put some emphasis on ecosystems. So we are putting together a dashboard which will be up in a month or two, hopefully. And specifically, we're tracking GDP per worker, job creation and employment in new and expanding businesses, employment in Nevada's target industries, STEM employee readiness and engagement, business starts and exits, small business loans and venture capital, cost of living and economic diversification indices. That's sort of what we are starting with. This can evolve over time as the entrepreneurial systems are very, very dynamic, but that's currently what we're tracking.
Thank you for that. And kind of my final question is, how would the addition of the Outreach and Innovation System Manager position, how would that increase the outreach that is currently provided to entrepreneurs within the state?
Yeah, thank you for the question, if I may. Thank you. It's Karsten Heise, for the record. Assemblymember Torres-Fawcett. And I apologize if I can address you directly, otherwise I would go through the chair. My oversight, my apologies. So the position is basically focusing two main areas at how we envision it. Support existing staff, and the director already mentioned we are very heavily involved in community outreach activities, where we're working with stakeholders in those communities, identifying their individual problems, and then doing basically hand-holding and turning those identification of problems, turning that into solutions, and then helping them through advice and through potential programs initiation with solving those issues. So that's sort of the existing staff support. But then the addition to that why we really also need a additional staff member, is operating as a bridge between the office and the other units of innovation-based economic development. And you will hear later in the presentation when we talk about the Knowledge Fund, we really talk about highly innovative, highly scalable, deep tech companies. It currently is not that well covered by the Office of Entrepreneurship because of staff shortages.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions on 1526? All right, we will move on to 1527. Thank you very much, Nevada Film Office.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Nevada Film Office markets the state as a film-friendly destination to film, TV, and commercials and other productions to generate economic impact through job creation and in-state production spending. The office facilitates connections with new local crews and services, as well as identifies filming locations and assists with permitting. The office also administers the Film Tax Incentive Program to attract productions of film into the state of Nevada and encourage the growth of the industry within our state. In addition to the services and to productions and filming in the state, the Nevada Film Office also recently initiated several community enrichment programs. This includes a workshop series where they select a topic of interest of community leaders, finds experts on the topic, and hosts an informative panel that's free to attend. I'd like to note that the proposed budget for the Nevada Film Office in fiscal year 26-27 is a significant increase from the current biennium budget. Not only was the 22-23 budget reduced as a result of the pandemic, but the 24-25 budget was reduced even further from that. The proposed increase for the upcoming biennium puts funding levels in line with pre-pandemic levels. The following enhancements units were requested for the fiscal year 25-27 for the biennium budget. E225, increase in advertising and marketing to allow the agency to advertise in the industry publications and in industry events. E226, travel in and out of the state of Nevada, as well as registration fees to attend industry events and trade shows to market the state as a film destination and meet with future clients. Increase the E227, increase in sponsorship and community enrichment programs. This would allow the division to sponsor more local film festivals and community screenings of locally made films, as well as hosting informative workshops and panels. E228, funding for the use of video creation for marketing purposes, as well as creating educational podcasts and film informative videos to be included on their website. E229, funding for printed marketing materials and collateral to allow clients who are visiting the state for filmmaking to take informational resources with them. E230, an increase in the host fund to provide refreshments at hosted panels and meetings, etc. E541, eliminates the transfer lodging tax from the Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs and replaces it with general fund appropriations. And finally, E710, computer and software replacement per the recommendation of the OCIO.
Thank you very much for that, and we'll go to Assemblymember Backus.
Thank you so much, Director Burns, for your presentation on the portion of your office that deals with Nevada film. My question for you and I realize that a lot of these tools were available before the pandemic and then kind of went away during our kind of COVID-19 cuts. However, I kind of think about this. I don't know if there's a partial struggle because we're dealing with the 15% to qualify. I know when I look at the Economic Forum, we have about up to 10 million each year to spend, and it rolls over, and we only put about 6.5 million. And I think actually the office did give away some money to an Oscar-winning film, so that's kind of exciting. So my question for you is, does your office do anything to measure the success of getting these films with respect to this type of advertising? Can you kind of go into that a little more for me? And if you need to have a friend that
Sure. We've been joined by Kim Spurgeon, who's the director of the Nevada Film Office.
Hello. Yes, my name is Kim Spurgeon, Director of the Nevada Film Office. Thank you, Assemblymember Backus, for the question. We do employ several metrics to measure the success of our programs. For instance, we track production revenue annually throughout the state. We collect data on all of the productions that film in the state throughout the year, and we have seen a decrease over the years that kind of corresponds with a decrease in our advertising budget. We also do community measures to, excuse me, we coordinate with our community members that we serve to ensure that we are meeting their needs by sending out surveys, communicating with them regularly, and making sure that their needs are met by our office.
If I may have a follow-up, Chair? So just kind of, since this is kind of your realm on this, and I'm just worried, I wasn't sure if the additional dollars put in advertising will really help increase the use of those credits. If you're getting, are you getting any pushback because Nevada right now is only at a 15% qualify spend? And we have a little more restrictions under our statutes. I know a lot of other states are kind of increasing those qualified to spend and giving a 30% credit. Are you hearing anything like that? I'm just kind of curious, if we really invest in advertising, is it really going to help us at this time with the lower percentage?
Thank you, Kim Spurgeon, again for the record. Thank you for the question. I'll give you a comparison of a fellow state of Montana. Their tax incentive program for film is similarly leveled to ours. They're funded at $12 million annually, whereas ours is currently at $10 million annually. Their advertising budget is at $500,000 per year. That's just for advertising, not including the any travel that their staff may take or operating costs. And their current incentive program has a backlog because they have awarded so many tax credits to productions that the ones filming now will have to wait to receive those tax credits because they have such a high volume. If you compare the annual production revenue here in Nevada, last year it was at, give me just a second. Last year, our production revenue for 2024 was at $54 million for the year. If you look at Montana, the period covering July 2022 through May 2024, they had $150 million in production spend in their region. So I would say that the advertising dollars that we're asking for would allow us to advertise in all of the publications that target this industry, as well as attend the industry events. This is an industry that is really built on networking, as I'm sure you can appreciate. And in order to get the work to our state and attract it, we have to build those relationships. And because of that, we have to be in the places where those industry events are taking place.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions on this budget account? Okay, seeing none, we can move on to Budget 1531, Workforce Innovations for a New Nevada.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tom Burns for the record. Though there are several effective workforce development agencies across our state, focus on our Workforce Development Division is to support business development efforts in attracting new business and industry to the state of Nevada. We provide opportunities for high-wage jobs for all Nevadans. This is the greatest tool we have at GoEd towards the purpose of that is workforce innovations for a new Nevada. The WIN program has brought great benefits to Nevadans seeking high-wage jobs and in-demand occupations for target sectors. As defined by NRS statute, there are various features of the WIN program that aim to promote economic growth and diversification in these target industries. Typically, WIN programs are delivered by the Nevada System of Higher Education, community colleges, to provide workforce training skills that are valued by companies and we seek to attract to the state of Nevada. The following enhancement units were requested for the upcoming biennium. E225 to maintain funding for educational partners to address targeted areas and workforce needs. Increase in-state travel to allow travel to Carson City and site visits to NSHE institutions across the state. Some program activities. WIN has been appropriated for $10 million across the two-year biennium, $5 million a year. And as of today, all of that money was awarded in the prior biennium. Currently, there are 18 awards across the 4 NSHE partners. The estimated number of people that will be trained in the WIN fund programs is a little over 2,000. Target number of job replacements based on WIN agreements and commitments is just short of 1,400. Nevada companies who've pledged letters of support to Nevada WIN programs say that they have 9,700 jobs in these target sectors. In total, 61 partners have written letters of support for the WIN-funded programs across the 4 institutions. Next slide, please. Sorry.
Okay, I think that's it on 1531, and I believe Assemblymember Brown May has a couple of questions.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director Burns. It's great to see you. Thank you for your quick presentations. We know we love workforce development. With regard to this WIN program, can you talk about how these workforce training programs remain aligned with the evolving industries here in Nevada? How are we being strategic? And then what measures are in place to assess the program's effectiveness?
Sure. So each of our programs is set up in response to industry needs and conversation with industry as an overall. We have tremendous partnerships with the 4 community college systems, CSN, Great Basin Community College, TMCC in Western Nevada. And as they approach us with grants for ongoing needs and burgeoning that align with the Nevada, with GoEd's target audiences, we bring those, carry those programs forward.
Thank you. Follow-up, Chair? Yes, please. Thank you. So can you talk about how are you measuring the return on the investment for the WIN program? Like, do you have placement? What's your data analysis? How are you telling us what's the ROI?
Sure. As we illustrated early on, I think it's really in the number of jobs we've created and trained for. I honestly believe this program is probably the most integral thing we do within our agency. Bringing companies to the state of Nevada is important only because they bring great jobs to Nevada. And ultimately, what we're after is high-paying, quality jobs for the folks that live in our state. And I think that's been emblematic. Just by way of comparison, the average wage at Tesla is about $105,000 a year, and that far outstretches what we probably would have seen from those folks in other industries. And so as we see the new jobs that were added last year, over 2,000 within the WIN placement, I think we have a good measure of our return on investment for that.
Thank you. One more, Madam Chair. Yes. Thank you so much. Director Burns, I really appreciate that, and I know that you're doing really good work creating new jobs. I'm curious to know, though, are we really tracking the jobs that we're creating? What's placement after a year? Are we maintaining those wages? Like, do we have long-term statistical analysis that tells us what the success rate is? And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but really, while we can train and place a person in mining, and they have completed a 90-day period, and they're successfully, we get their numbers, 90 days. We trained and we placed, and we have a new enormous truck driver. Well, the truck driver's probably not enormous, but the truck is, right? And so they have a really great wage, and they're supporting their families. But is that true in effect a year later or 2 years later? Are we building sustainability and solutions for families going forward? And I'm just curious to know, is your department tracking those metrics with the employers or the educators that you're working with?
Madam Assemblywoman Tom Burns, for the record. I don't believe I have that data at hand. I'm happy to follow up with you with our folks in the WIN program and determine if it's available and get back to this committee.
Thank you very much. Do we have any additional questions on this particular budget? All right, seeing none, we can go on to 1532, which is the Nevada Main Street program.
Thank you, Chair. Tom Burns for the record. Nevada Main Street is a holistic approach to downtown economic and community development that empowers local communities, both rural and urban, to determine their goals through strategic planning and give them tools, training, and technical assistance and grant funding to achieve these goals. The Nevada Main Street program has almost tripled in the last 3 years, welcoming its 30th community, Reno's Riverwalk District, at the beginning of this month, with 3 more communities expected to join by the end of this fiscal year. Nevada Main Street has put together a group of strategic and mutually beneficial state, federal, and not-for-profit partnerships. These partnerships are vital to the communities who can hear about programs and opportunities directly from those running them, and for the partners who are able to better understand the needs of the community in order to make their programs and outreach effective. This work can't be done in silos, and Nevada Main Street has been incredibly successful in bringing everyone to the table to help each other. These partnerships act as a multiplier, allowing communities to fund and complete more of their projects and goals. Due to the success of the program and the communities that are involved, especially with the one-shot funding provided last session, we continued record growth. Additional funding is needed to ensure the communities can continue to receive the training and resources, direct technical assistance, and support to achieve these goals. The following enhancement units were requested for the upcoming biennial budget. E225 adds funding for the Main Street Grant Program to award competitive grants to participating Main Street organizations focused on economic and community development in their communities. E226 requests funds for in-state travel to allow staff to travel to the communities around the state and community meetings, outreach, and direct technical assistance. E227 requests funds for out-of-state travel to the state coordinator to attend the National Main Street Conference and 2 in-person national training sessions. Finally, E228 provides funding to contract with the National Main Street organization. The contract will include additional technical assistance and training for both the state coordinator and the local programs.
Thank you very much. And I believe Assemblymember Watts has a couple questions.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you for that presentation. So could you just give us a little bit of information on how you arrived at the additional appropriation, the $876,000 roughly?
Sure.
So how are you kind of estimating the demand and the need and arrived at that number?
Thank you for the question, Assemblymember Watts. I've been joined by Sherry Davis. She is the coordinator for the Main Street program.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sherry Davis, SHARI-DAVIS, Director of Rural Economic and Community Development. It is a weird number, right? So what we did is we took the average, and I can give you those numbers. Last year, we distributed $662,954.50 in grants because they're competitive, so they have to apply and give us the quotes and all of those things. So that's what was distributed. And so that's an average award of $41,434.66 per Main Street organization. Because of our growth, we decided to add at least 5 more communities that would be able to receive approximately that amount, as well as a slight increase as well for any sort of increase in costs of goods and all of that sort of thing. So that's where that number comes from.
Thank you for that. And then could you just speak a little bit on the reporting requirements for recipients of these funds or grants?
Absolutely. So they have extensive requirements. They have to provide invoices. They have to provide final reports. It's sort of run a lot like a federal grant program would be, so with all of those same requirements and stipulations primarily. So I can go over, let me grab the actual, I have so many pages just in case. So, but they have to complete a final report. They have to provide invoices. They have to show pictures. They have to show proof that they gave Nevada Main Street and GoEd credit for the things that they were able to do. They have to explain what the return on investment is. So a full final report has to be completed.
All right, thank you. You were very well prepared. Thank you, Chair, for the questions.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions on this particular budget? Okay, seeing none, we can go on to Budget 1533, the Nevada Knowledge Account.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To present that, I've asked Karsten Heinz, our subject matter expert on this issue, to step forward.
Thank you, Director, and members of the committee. Madam Chair, Karsten Heiser for the record. I'm leading innovation-based economic development at GoEd, as I briefly initially alluded to with respect to the Office of Entrepreneurship. And this division also includes the Knowledge Fund. And This is my 7th session, and this is the 7th time I'm in front of this committee, and it's good to see familiar faces. And every time I come here, I sort of make the case, as you probably have heard me, that the Knowledge Fund is the most critical and really only state program we have to foster Nevada's innovation economy. But you ask, why is that really important? Well, because an innovation-driven economy we are transforming their knowledge into commercial applications. And because we do that, this system, this approach produces benefits that are, working very well and well into the future. And since GoEd started, we have had 2 massive recessions within our economy, and the Nevada economy is highly cyclical. As the financial crisis, which really created GoEd as a result, and the pandemic have shown us. And an innovation-based economy really mitigates those boom and bust cycles. So we are really trying to smoothen that with the innovation-based economic development approach. And through the Knowledge Fund, we are able, therefore, to continue to generate high-paying jobs for our companies we attract to the state, for our companies that we create, for our companies that we grow, and especially innovative companies. And most importantly, this is not just technology. You are talking about Knowledge Fund, you are asking often. So you are just creating tech jobs, tech-based jobs. And actually, this is not just tech jobs. It is a lot of jobs outside the tech sector. So when you go to research being done by Berkeley economics professor Enrico Moretti, he found that the multiplier, we call it a multiplier, is actually 5 to 1. So for one tech job that you recreate through the Knowledge Fund, 5 jobs outside the tech sector are created. There's actually a much higher multiplier than in manufacturing. Manufacturing is approximately 3 to 1. So for one job in the manufacturing sector, you create 3 additional jobs outside the manufacturing sector. So we have a budget request with you, which is slightly larger than usual. And what do we do with that money? Or what do we intend to do with the money? We intend to continue the operation of the Knowledge Fund Currents project. And then the budget enhancements will leverage the momentum that we have experienced over the past, I would say, probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years. There's been a tremendous shift that we are seeing. And what do I mean by that? This momentum is really based on a variety of factors that we are seeing and experiencing actually with other programs within our division. So we are noticing a much higher startup activity. We are noticing much higher venture capital investment activity. We are noticing also a formation of new seed and venture capital funds or vehicles that provide capital to those early stage high growth companies. And we have experienced or seen in the last 2 years large bipartisan federal programs and initiatives that were strongly supported by Nevada's congressional delegation. For example, the Federal and State Technology Partnership Program, or FAST, which sits under the SBA, the Build to Scale, which sits under the Economic Development Administration of Commerce, EDA, as well as the National Science Foundation Innovation Engines Program. As this committee already pointed out earlier in the hearings, that there could be changes to those federal programs. That's really a question. So we don't see that yet. Congress has passed a joint resolution. The NSF actually just issued a new Notice of Funding Opportunity, or NOFO, for the second engines. The deadline there is coming up fast, and we are submitting our applications on April 14th. And GoEd and its partners have also been in touch regularly and have communicated with relevant federal agencies as well as our congressional delegation. And what I would also like to point towards, especially in innovation and technology, there is a really, what I would call really relevant continuation at the federal level. So the past and the present administrations in the White House have both put an emphasis on reshoring manufacturing, reshoring supply chains, energy independence, national security, and really above all, US technology supremacy. So there is a continuation that we are seeing. Programs might change, but the emphasis, I think, is staying that continuous. Because, globally, a lot is driven by geopolitics. The threats are not getting less, they're actually getting more, and we have to respond to that. I mentioned the momentum that we have been experiencing in our state's innovation and startup world. And as a response, we have put in place frameworks and strategies upon which we can now execute. However, a successful execution will really require investments from GOED. And the only, as I alluded to at the beginning, our instrument that we have at our disposal is the Knowledge Fund. So the investment through the Knowledge Fund enhancement will really address critical gaps that we are experiencing in these innovation ecosystems. We are not here on our own. As you know, other states are competing with us. And they are competing for this race for reshoring manufacturing and supply chains, for energy independence, national security, and technology supremacy. And they have responded by ramping up investments, and Nevada is risking being left behind. We did an analysis when we submitted our budget, and we looked at states of Illinois, Ohio, Massachusetts, Michigan, North Carolina, Tennessee. And they have announced investments over the last year and a half, which corresponds to roughly 0.16% to 1.3% of state tax revenue. Our average, if you look at the Knowledge Funds going back, annually, this would be about 3.5 million. That represents a mere 0.03 of state tax revenue. So our request would take us to about 0.12% of state tax revenue, but it's still below the range that I was currently stating of those other states. To really ultimately appreciate the impact of the Knowledge Fund, you can listen to me all day long, but we have prepared a video, and hopefully technology doesn't let us down. We would like to play it with your permission.
Madam Chair, while we are working on our technical issues, I know I had alerted you earlier and asked your permission to have a couple of speakers come up from UNLV, UNR, and DRI, and with your permission, this might be an appropriate time to do that.
Okay, I think we're going to Las Vegas. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, down there is Kamud Acharya, and he's my friend, and I butcher his last name all the time, so I apologize to Kamud. And Dr. Bobinard, and here in Carson City, we have Zach Miles and Dr. Mutter Gottman.
All right, let's start with the doctor in Las Vegas. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Kamud Acharya, President of the Desert Research Institute, here today in support of the Knowledge Fund at GOED. The Knowledge Fund has provided DRI with funding that is focused on establishing new research areas and commercialization of research successes. It was instrumental in helping DRI and our partners at UNLV, Arizona State University, and the University of Utah to be successfully awarded a major National Science Foundation grant. The grant, the Southwest Sustainability Innovation Engine, or SWISI for short, is designed to spur economic innovation by creating a sustainability economy in the West. This economic engine will focus on carbon capture, water security, and renewable energy technologies. The initial phase of this grant is $15 million over the first 2 years, with the potential to be renewed for up to 10 years with $116 million in funding. In addition to providing monetary federal resources to advance technologies related to water, energy, and sustainability in Nevada, SWISI helps ensure that Nevada is in lockstep with similar advancement in Utah and Arizona. One of the SWISI projects based at DRI is an effort to better quantify evaporation and water bodies in the desert Southwest. Lakes Powell, Meade, and Mojave in the Colorado River Basin are facing increasing demand, as well as drought conditions, and the interstate negotiation on the Colorado River are driving the need to make the basin water budget as precise as possible. DRI is partnering with Hydrosat, a satellite startup company working in the Southwest, to use satellite data to better resolve water evaporations from these reservoirs. With increasingly strained water resources, this project will furnish critical data for estimating an accurate water budget for the Colorado River Basin. DRI has had a record of success in utilizing the Knowledge Fund to launch lasting wins for the state. This includes WaterStart, which spun out of DRI and is helping to match water technology solutions with water utilities. It also includes the Healthy Nevada project, one of the largest population-specific public health studies in the country, which focuses on Nevadans' health, and began at DRI and is now at UNR. Through our commercialization fellowship program, the Knowledge Fund has also been instrumental in educating and energizing DRI researchers to commercialize the findings of the research, not only to grow and diversify our economy, but as a service to our state and the nation. Examples of which are promising technologies that are in varying stages of development with commercialization end goal include using biochar to reduce the cost and improve sustainability of water treatment, developing smart tools for lithium battery fire prevention, scale up production of natural, and I can go on and on about all of this, but we sincerely thank GOED for the support of DRI, and I'm excited about the upcoming new technology, innovation, commercialization efforts in Nevada and the growth of our economy. Thank you very much.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair Dondero Loop. My name is Bo Bernhard, B-O-B-E-R-N-H-A-R-D. I am Vice President at UNLV. I wear several hats there. I oversee economic development in addition to philanthropy and alumni engagement, but I'm also very proud to be the Philip Sautre Chair at the University of Nevada, Reno, where I sit in the College of Business. I think that's probably appropriate here today, given this is sort of a quintessential north-south, east-west, UNLV, UNR, DRI, across the political aisle, urban-rural project. I was the one gesticulating wildly in that video. I'll try to act it out here because it is something that we get very, very excited talking about. It has launched things that simply did not exist prior to this Knowledge Fund. This esteemed legislative body launched the Knowledge Fund more than a decade ago, inspired by similar legislation in neighboring Utah, where Salt Lake City has been transformed into a tech hub by the University of Utah, which was funded by their version of this. We've seen similar developments in Phoenix with Arizona State and through the Arizona State Legislature. In short, this is a program that has delivered. It has delivered Blackfire Innovation, which many of you know and have visited. This is a facility named after the Nevada State Gemstone. I'm slightly embarrassed. I'm a fifth-generation Nevadan, and I was unaware that our state gemstone is the Blackfire Opal. Named after and inspired by that, we've built out Blackfire Innovation down south. Of course, up north, you'll hear about our brilliant Nevada Center for Advanced Research. But I want to talk about two projects in particular that illustrate sort of the power and the magic of Blackfire. And again, if you've not visited this facility, I would encourage you to do so. We'd be happy to give you a tour. You'll recall the lithium battery fire on the Interstate 15 last July, burned for 44 hours. Lithium, of course, very important in the communities between the two of us here in Las Vegas and up there in Carson City. Very important, of course, to our mining economy. Pyrostop is a company that lives at Blackfire, launched in Dr. Pradip Bhowmik's lab at UNLV. It sheaths the lithium battery with a strongly fire retardant substance that prior to the Knowledge Fund, prior to Blackfire, would not have had a place to go. This would have been a brilliant insight coming out of a lab, probably published in an obscure journal. Now we can say, come to Blackfire, launch your company. These are all small businesses, the over 100 companies that call Blackfire home, in a way that was not possible prior to the existence of the Knowledge Fund. At a maybe even more impactful level, and we were just speaking about the ways in which Swissy, this collaboration across our campuses, has delivered sustainability science. Waver is an amazing company that was launched out of Dr. Jeremy Cho's lab at UNLV. The 30 feet of air above your home has enough water within it to serve your entire home for an entire year. The challenge is, of course, accessing that water. Dr. Jeremy Cho has invented a water harvesting technology that puts a device atop your home to harvest enough water to serve that home for the entire year. Once again, these are innovations driven by our powerhouse research universities in a way that we've seen extraordinary success in communities like Phoenix, like Salt Lake. The reason that Austin is because of the University of Texas. The reason that the Carolinas have become a massively impressive tech hub and seemingly overnight is because of the research triangle there. This is our version of that, and we're delivering already. Blackfire is housed within a $35 million building that was not built without a single legislative tax dollar. Normally we come to you, and it's a very, I think, a very strong methodology for funding state buildings that serve our educational purposes is to come to the legislature and ask for funding for our buildings. Blackfire was built without a single legislative tax dollar, and that reflects the confidence with which the private sector, and again, 100 businesses represented at Blackfire, have in this kind of economic engine. The private sector believes in us and our state's universities and in our ability to drive economic development through this unique engine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll go here to Carson City. And please go ahead when you're ready.
Good morning, Chair Daniela Loop, Chairman Moreno, members of the Joint Committee. My name is Mridul Gautam, M-R-I-D-U-L-G-A-U-T-A-M. I serve as the Vice President for Research and Innovation at the University of Nevada, Reno. Since 2015, the Knowledge Fund has played a pivotal role in supporting vibrant innovation ecosystems both in the South, the North, East, and West of Nevada, helping attract and support nearly 500 companies and organizations through the University of Nevada, Reno's Nevada Center for Applied Research. We call it NCAR, N-C-A-R, the university's Innovation Center, and Nevada Autonomous. The Knowledge Fund created by Governor Sandoval, my president at the University of Nevada, Reno, and this body, the legislature, has been a true game changer for Nevada. I came here 11 years ago, and there's no place that I know of nationwide that is so exciting as the two regions, North and South in Nevada. The Knowledge Fund investment, $8.7 million to date at the University of Nevada, Reno, has helped affiliated companies raise over $342 million in venture capital, $8.7 million investment, $342 million of venture capital. They've created more than 900 high-tech jobs. And as Carson Heiser said, there's a multiplier effect of 4.35, depends where you're looking at. That's in the service sector industry, whether it's healthcare, transportation, retail, hospitality, you name it. All this has positioned the university as a hub of economic development and workforce readiness. Prior to the Knowledge Fund, our capacity to support startups, the most exciting part, the machine that creates most jobs, and connect industry with university expertise was very limited, if at all. The Knowledge Fund has helped us scale the infrastructure, bring in talent, build partnerships, moving ideas from university laboratories to the marketplace. Two standard examples, and I'll just give you two of the hundreds. Two standard examples include EcoAtoms and the American Battery Technology Company, better known as ABTC. EcoAtoms, founded by Dr. Solange Massa, is advancing space-based biomedical manufacturing, and she recently won NASA's Tech Leap Prize. Just this week, the company passed a system build challenge, paving the way for the system to be integrated and tested with a NASA-provided payload. They're using 3 specialized university laboratories and creating new student training opportunities. ABTC, founded by Dr. Ryan Meltzer, is developing lithium extraction methods that use less water and less energy, helping build Nevada's circular battery economy. They've secured over $200 million in funding and hired both interns and full-time employees from the university. All of this money that the companies bring in is being spent in Nevada, and it's drawing world-class talent to Nevada. As you know, the University of Nevada, Reno was a recipient of the National Science Foundation's highly coveted and competitive Regional Innovation Engines Development Award. This award is focused, again, on the circular economy around lithium and critical materials. This would have been impossible without the support from GOED and the Knowledge Fund. This $1 million award, the Development Award, has enabled us to develop a $160 million application to NSF that Mr. Heiser had referred to earlier. And this is due in about 2 weeks from now. Again, the state of Nevada could not have done this without the Governor's Office of Economic Development's Knowledge Fund investment. The Knowledge Fund is doing what it was designed to do. It's creating jobs, it's spurring innovation, it's strengthening Nevada's economy. With increased investments, we could scale faster, support more companies, and train even more students for the jobs of the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
I will be quick, Madam Chair and the Assembly members. Zach Miles, Z-A-C-H-M-I-L-E-S. I am the officer in charge for the Office of Economic Development, and you've already heard from my esteemed colleague and friend, Dr. Bernhard, on all of the benefits that UNLV has received. I also want to add a bit of the personal flair, or the way that the Knowledge Fund has really supported a lot of the startup companies. For example, Waiver, that not only is just a company based off of high tech, but provides these real world opportunities for our students. They're working with the researcher, they're working with the company, and they're able to utilize those skills and be gainfully employed in Nevada. We're able to work with those federal grants like SWIZI. Waiver has received a $250,000 innovation award from them. They have soft-circled venture capital funds. They're working with larger companies on deploying this revolutionary technology. So it really is a catalyst to bring together all of the constituents to help build economic diversification as well as sustain our current industries. And so I'll leave it with that. It was well said by the others, but just wanted to add that personal flavor that it really involves everybody, and we're excited to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being succinct. Do we have the video up and ready to roll? Thank you. Go ahead, please.
So now we have companies from California coming in and from all parts of the world and create new jobs which would otherwise have not come to Nevada.
We have 2 tech unicorns downstairs. That means started in Las Vegas that are now billion-dollar tech companies, one in cybersecurity, one in fintech.
And all of that is being invested right here. It's being spent right here in Nevada.
The Knowledge Fund doesn't just create tech-based jobs that require a 4-year degree. For one new high-tech job, 5 additional jobs are ultimately created outside the tech sector.
These companies, when they come here, are 1 or 2 people strong. They grow to 60, 70, 80 people strong. And they're creating new jobs, they're creating wealth.
Companies will come, work with us, get the resources they need, grow, and then move on to their own facility.
The dollars that we put in turn into $3 in return, turn into $5 in return, turn into $10 in return.
We have helped these incoming companies generate more than $327 million in venture capital, all of which is being spent right here in Nevada.
The Knowledge Fund has shown a compelling return on investment. 37.4 million Knowledge Fund investments resulted in 7,900 direct and indirect jobs, nearly 46 million in state tax revenue paid into the general fund. So the Knowledge Fund is paying for itself.
We have the ability to drive industry and jobs here to Nevadans, create wealth and prosperity for Nevadans here right now.
Knowledge Fund projects save Nevadans' lives, be it through pedestrian or traffic safety, personalized medicine, or population health.
What this is really about making resources available to the public for maximum benefit all around, for the community's benefit.
Knowledge Fund allows us to develop technologies to solve problems that our citizens are facing here in Nevada, whether it's groundwater or surface water or wildfires or any of that.
So the impact is fast, and the impact is felt by many, whether they're tools to predict water levels or whether they're tools to predict exposure to air quality or extreme heat. This is something that people can benefit from at a wide scale.
Knowledge Fund created Healthy Nevada Project DRI. That involves more than 50,000 people's lives.
With the Knowledge Fund and the money that goes into that, you will live a better life.
Now we're in a moment, though, where we really recognize, especially after COVID, how important it is to diversify this economy into a much more robust economy of tomorrow.
It has helped us link the legacy industries such as mining and the current and future industries in advanced batteries and critical materials.
So in 1864, we founded the Comstock Club. And we're at a precipice, we're at a time right now that is similar to that of 1864. It's really important that we keep the jobs that are related to lithium here in Nevada.
The one innovation funding we have in this entire state budget is the Knowledge Fund, which other states and our neighbor cities like Phoenix and Salt Lake have demonstrated has a unique power to transform an entire economy into a much more robust, resilient one.
Through the Knowledge Fund, Nevada is a player in the global innovation-driven economy and attracts and grows technology-based companies in our state.
With the help of the Knowledge Fund, Nevada can continue generating high-paying jobs and attracting innovative firms to the state.
It is making us more recession-proof.
Solve problems, bring companies, and help in economic development.
It is up to us to design our future.
Thank you for that. Any additional comment?
No, Madam Chair, I was just going to tell you, our objective here was not to wear you out, but we've concluded that portion of our...
It's close, but we're on it. Assemblymember Mosca does have some questions for you.
Thank you, Chair, and I have a couple questions, please. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Director. Good to see you, and thank you for this. I can really understand how it's the R&D of our state and really appreciate all the collaboration. And knowing it's a budget committee, I have some specific questions regarding the budget asks. And so I think you all did a great job showing the successes that has come from the Knowledge Fund, but looking at the projects that are recommended for the $9.7 million continuation over the 25-27 biennium, what are the expected successes we see from that?
Thank you for the question, Assemblymember Mosca. I'm going to defer this answer to Karsten.
Thank you for the question. So if I, Carsten Heiser for the record, you're specifically asking with respect to the budget enhancement, what we are expecting as a return?
Yes, knowing that there is in the budget, the 9.7 million, specifically, what is that, what successes are we expecting from that money?
Understood. Thank you for the clarification, Carsten Heiser for the record. So we did you probably saw the video, the number that I quoted, and we adjusted that. So our budget ask in total, if you sum it all up, comes up to about $29.3 million. And that would lead to 6,248 jobs and 35.95 million in state tax revenue. That's sort of the pro rata of when we do this calculation. And saying we, I have to give credit to Professor Tom Harris at UNR's University Center for Economic Development. He is a professor emeritus, and he did the calculation for us. He did it's an based on the implant model, the economic impact. And that's the sort of the equivalent.
Okay, thank you. You answered one of my questions, so that makes sense. And then for then keep going on, what is the expected impact on Nevada's technology industry if the $9.6 million in general fund appropriations is allocated for the new projects?
Carsten Heiser for the record. So in numbers, I would quote the same numbers, but I would also like to really hint towards what I would call the Knowledge Fund will enable us to participate. I call this participation. So we participate in attracting more federal funding and private capital. Dr. Gotham mentioned, venture capital, the companies that we are supporting through the Knowledge Fund indirectly through the work that we are doing. They are able to raise much higher amounts of venture capital. We were able to participate in the fiercely competitive national global knowledge-based economy because we are growing these companies, we are supporting these companies, NCAR was mentioned to strengthen their competitiveness. We are participating in the attraction of most talented workforce. So talent is short. Through the Knowledge Fund, we can grow our own talent. As Mr. Miles alluded to, we can connect students with companies. They work actually on real-life projects and solve those problems directly, so that will help us attract and grow a talented workforce. Growing and attracting most innovative firms, EcoAtoms and ABCT was mentioned as established companies, Waiver as a new company. So startups as well, startup growth. We have projects in there that help through what we call accelerators to take technology level to closer to market. So we are really participating, and that is really, I believe, the answer. Not quantifying, but
Okay, thank you. And then my last question is, what is the oversight and reporting requirements that the agency implements when you're tracking how we're using these funds and making sure there is an impact on the economy?
Thank you for the question, Carsten Heiser for the record. So the universities are required through their contracts to produce a semi-annual report twice a year, and before April 1st and before October 1st. And those reports are on our website, so you can download those reports. And we then also produce, as an agency, an annual report to the legislature and the governor. And we are taking in there all the information that we have. But I would also like to point out that this is not just very passive, that we're waiting for them to provide us with a report, and that's how we track. We are actually very actively involved in each and individual project that we support. Actually, a lot of projects are initiated by GoEd through our economic development strategy within the Innovation-Based Economic Development Division. We are initiating projects at the universities. We are bringing sort of teams to the table, then apply for federal grants, for example, I mentioned earlier on, Build to Scale, or the FAST grant. That enables us to be really not only intrinsic in the project, but at a minimum very close. And often, Dr. Gotham mentioned the NSF engines, for example. We are even co-PIs there. So we are really deep ingrained in those projects. So that is, a one form of oversight, not very formal in the sense of reporting, but we are really at the pulse of it.
Thank you very much, and I believe Assemblymember Watts has a question.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair. I have one quick clarifying question. So you mentioned that there's now a notice of funding opportunity out for the NSF engines, and so I just wanted to clarify: is that related to the Recharge Nevada opportunity? Because I had heard that there was a notice of funding opportunity, and it disappeared right before the deadline in February. So is it back now?
Carsten Heiser for the record. Yeah, it disappeared in real time at 9:26, I think, on the very day we were supposed to submit. It is back now. It took about a month and a half for them to reissue a new NOFO, and they were already warning us at that time. We have about a month from issuance to submission. So that is exactly it.
Thank you so much for that. And then I appreciate this. I think you've talked really well about the economic return, the fiscal return, the technological benefits that we see, and how this really helps take research insights that might not go that far and help turn them into products that create both economic value and value in quality of life. But could you just talk very briefly about the returns that these institutions get from licensing those research insights, and how some other institutions can see significant financial return to fund their institutions when those products are successful?
Thank you for the question, Carsten Heiser, for the record, Assemblyman Watts. Yes. Now, I have to manage expectations. This is a big numbers game when you really want to nail it down who's successful. So we pulled some numbers because we're getting these questions like every 2 years, and it's fair enough, and it's the right question to ask because in the law there is a provision for commercialization revenue to revert back into the Knowledge Fund. Basically, what we are talking about is 2 million on average. 2 million of research funding yields about one patent application. But only 10% of patent applications are turned into 10% of patents turn into commercial products, and only about 0.7% of intellectual properties make more than 1 million, and 16% of technology transfer offices just break even, and 74% are in the red. So that's sort of what you are dealing with. But there is a chance, and I think we've highlighted ecoatoms, we highlighted quantum copper, we highlighted waiver. Not all of them will succeed. The first step is to identify those opportunities and then go through a very long process of getting them to commercial application, accelerating external technology, and then you get to a point where, Assemblyman Jäger, his bill AB 427 is in the legislature, then the venture capital takes over, and that's probably another 10 years. So that's what we are looking at. But these are the odds we are against. But I think with the experience of the Knowledge Fund over the last more than a decade, we put in place at least a structure that can eventually get us the big one.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions? Okay, seeing none, we will go on to, I believe, maybe the last budget count, 4867, Procurement Outreach Program. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the one we were looking for, right? So, the Nevada Apex Accelerator, through its public-facing services, helps Nevada businesses of all sizes compete in the government marketplace for contracts. Contract wins will help the flow of state, federal, and local government contract dollars to the Nevada economy, allowing for businesses to sustain and grow. Apex services include, but are not limited to, one-on-one counseling, also access to solicitations for goods and services, and Apex-led events. The Nevada Apex Accelerator has an alternative reporting period, but in the last 3 quarters, subsets of the Nevada Accelerator small business clients were able to win a total of $152 million worth of government contracts. From October 14th to 2024 through January 11th to 2025, that amount was over $35 million. I'd like to note that the funding allocation for the program is 65% through federal funding and 35% through general fund appropriations, and we are confident that the federal funding will remain in place. The following enhancements were requested in the fiscal year 25-27 biennium. E225, an increase in both state and out-of-state travel for staff to assist with in-person networking events and agency meetings. Staff would also travel to out of state to attend the U.S. Department of Defense Small Business Training Week to receive specialized training and collaborate with other federal government professionals. E226 would request funds to provide salary increases for the staff to ensure satisfaction and retention. E710, again, computer and software replacement updates as recommended by OCO. Current program activities have included on February 7th, 2025, the Nevada Accelerator had over 2,900 clients. That subset was awarded over at 850 government contracts, and the contracts totaled over $261 million.
Thank you very much. And I believe that Senator Taylor has a couple questions.
Thank you, Chair. And I know these questions are between the committee and whatever else everybody has to do today, so I will be quick. Thank you. Thank you, Director Burns, and thank you for the presentation. Love the innovation and specifically the small business piece as a small business owner. I just have a couple of questions, if I may, Madam Chair. Thank you. I want to talk a little bit about the contract, the survey, the increase, and, I certainly believe in paying people, don't get me wrong. But do you know anything about the metrics that were used to come up with those salary ranges?
Sure. There is a national association, the National Association of Contract Management Association, that has about 55,000 members in total. There was a survey done of a little over 1,300 employees in that space. And we found that in reviewing that study that our wages fell woefully short of what their peers were being paid in the similar situations throughout the United States. I'll also add that as you look at, and I'm not entirely sure how this arrived as I showed up a couple of years ago, but their wages as it reflects their peers, even within GoEd, as it relates to with similar responsibilities and workloads, also fell behind their peers within the office, but also their peers nationally in similar jobs in other apexes.
Thank you, Director. I appreciate that. In our background material, you talked a little bit about how that impacts, their morale and your being able to recruit and retain your team members and so on. What's your vacancy rate?
Currently, we don't have any vacant jobs in there. We had one job here in Carson City that remained open for a little over 7 months. It was just filled in December.
What's your turnover look like? How much are you?
Our director's been there about 9 years. And we've had a couple of jobs turn over in my 2-year tenure, has turned over 2 times since my
Okay,
time.
then I will just keep going on the need for the increase, just trying to get my arms around
Sure.
around that and what you're working for in this request. One of the things you talked about was the increased workload.
Right.
And that's also a reason that you want to reward your team members and so on. Would you give us an idea of specifically what are you seeing in terms of their workload
Sure.
that's increasing, that's having an impact on that?
We have made, government programs are great, but if nobody knows about them, they're not good to the people you're trying to serve, right? And so it's important that while we have this great service to the small businesses of the state of Nevada, that we do outreach within our state to educate them on the services available. So we've done seminars in conjunction with the Naval Air Station in Fallon, with Creech, with Nellis, and with NASA to introduce those contracting buying officers to the folks, to the small businesses within the state of Nevada. We've also increased the one-on-one contact with the businesses in the state of Nevada to push them through, as well as the ESB program, which is Emerging Small Business Program that also is really a more local program than it is federal. But that has flowed into that office as well. And we've had tremendous success, but again, has increased everybody's bucket a little bit.
And then my final question, and thank you for your indulgence, Madam Chair, and this is part of my business mind asking this and also related to this, how do you know you're being successful?
It's based on the amount of the contracts we've issued, right? We outlined the successes that we were able to achieve. I think it's imperative that given the amount of federal money that is spent within our state, really relative to our size, that we have the opportunity for Nevadans to participate in that. And so to have over $260 million in contracts awarded to Nevada businesses through that program and through Apex, I think is significant and moves along supporting over 2,800 businesses within the state, allowing them to supply. As you can imagine, owning a small business, Senator, one of the more daunting tasks, everybody tells you, anybody, that they make the best cake in the world. And then all of a sudden it becomes time and that you should sell the cake. Well, then you figure out that there's so much more to selling the cake than just making a great cake. And if you're going to sell it to the government, you got to figure out who the cake buyer is and how to get in line for the cake buying dollar. And so walking people through that, it can be very daunting, as you can imagine. And so being able to crack that code, I think, is imperative to the Nevada businesses.
I appreciate that, Director. Also, with the cake, you got to figure out how much money you need for eggs.
Yes, right.
Just saying, that might impact the budget.
I believe that's a different.
That's a whole different thing.
I believe that's a different bill, Senator.
Thank you for your indulgence, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator. Maybe we can find a flourless, eggless cake. All right, thank you very much. And I think that might complete our questions on this today. And that completes our time with you. And
Very
thank
good.
you very much. We appreciate you being here today.
Thank you very much.
All right, that brings us to our last agenda item today, public comment. For those providing public comment, please remember to state and spell your name for the record. To call in to provide testimony, dial 888-475-4499. And when prompted, the meeting ID will be 881-1403. 4881, and then press pound. When prompted for your participant ID, please press pound again. I will begin with public comment here in Carson City, and then I will go to Las Vegas. Please go ahead.
Hi, Kathy Flanagan, representing the Southern Nevada Water Authority here and today in support of the knowledge account. I'll submit my full statement for the record, but here I'd just like to say that the state's knowledge account established Water Start in 2013, which is a partnership between tech companies, water agencies, academic institutions, public and private industries. Thanks to the state's knowledge account, Water Start and the SNWA has been able to test and validate $2 million worth of new technologies, with close to 75% of those technologies being adopted within our system and operations. Water Start's contributions have helped extend Southern Nevada's water resources in a meaningful way. With continued investment in the knowledge account, Nevada's economic growth can align with its water conservation goals. For these reasons, we encourage your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, and good morning, Chair and members of the Joint Committee. For the record, my name is Trevor Parrish, Manager of Government Affairs for the Vegas Chamber. Simply put, the Chamber is supportive of the GOED budget and specifically the Knowledge Fund. Very supportive. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair, members. My name is Carlos Cardillo, Executive Director for Corporate Partnerships at the Nevada Center for Applied Research, also known as NCAR. This is a center supported by the Knowledge Fund. In December 2013, 7 states, including the state of Nevada, were selected by the Federal Aviation Administration as a test site for unmanned aircraft systems. In July 2022, NCAR, through Nevada Autonomous, assumed the role of operator of the Nevada UAS test sites. And since then, we have taken deliberate and effective approach to restarting a stagnant UAS test site in this state. We work diligently with the FAA, all other UAS test sites, the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority, the Nevada National Security Site, and several industry partners to create a new identity, nurturing government, industry, and academic collaboration by creating projects, partnerships, workforce development programs that will open doors for UAS testing and the companies to look at the state of Nevada as the go-to place for UAS activities. We secure 9,228 square miles, that's larger of the state of New Jersey, of approved operating areas, which offer many opportunities because the state of Nevada has several advantages to be a leader in UAS and advanced air mobility testing. By supporting NCAR, the Knowledge Fund made possible the revitalization of the Nevada UAS test site, and it has the potential to create a new strong drone economy in the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Chairwoman and committee members. My name is Clarissa Cota, C-O-T-A, Vice President of External Relations with the College of Southern Nevada. I'm here today to thank you for your support of GOED's Workforce Innovations for New Nevada funding. The College of Southern Nevada, through its partnership with the state, has been able to produce hundreds of workforce-ready graduates aligning to the high-demand industry sectors because of the WIN Fund. Within the last biennium, the WIN Fund has supported the CSN Nursing Expansion Program in North Las Vegas. We've been able to increase our capacity and the needs of the manufacturing companies relocating to this region. We are expanding our networking, software, and cybersecurity programs at CSN so that an additional 750 students will participate in these workforce pathways. And we scaled our logistics and operations training certification courses. Looking forward to the next biennium, CSN is prepared to expand our capacity within the state's targeted industries, such as IT, logistics, hospitality, tourism, film, and advanced manufacturing. However, we are unable to do this without the support of the WIN Fund. We therefore ask this body for your continued support of this very critical workforce training funding source, which creates an economy of high-paying jobs in our region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair Dondero Loop, Senators, and Assembly members. I'm Mike Pearl, P-E-Y-E-R-L for the record. I'm the Vice President for Finance, Government Relations, and IT for Truckee Meadows Community College. Today, I'm here to provide our support for the workforce innovations for a new Nevada funding authorization and to tell you how important this funding is for TMCC's mission in supporting Nevada's workforce training and development. TMCC is one of the leaders in workforce training, providing quality instruction and career paths to over 11,000 for-credit students and over 6,000 non-credit students. This funding is vital for Nevada's workforce training, Nevada's industries, Nevada's ability to further diversify our economy, and most importantly, this funding allows TMCC to innovate and provide the best quality instruction with equipment that provides our students with the same equipment they will utilize when they enter the workforce. During this biennium, TMCC was able to secure over $3.5 million from the Governor's Office of Economic Development. This funding supported additional instructors, training development, and equipment upgrades for our diesel and automotive programs, our advanced manufacturing programs that supports the development of Nevada's lithium loop, and our CNC machining and welding programs. Not only did this funding support our students in career and technical education, but it also enhanced the quality and quantity of students entering the workforce. We are right now projected to graduate over 400 students because of this funding into the workforce. These funds allow TMCC to be an innovative leader in education for workforce, training, and development, ensuring the continued diversification of our economy now and in the future. This funding increased our quantity and quality of instruction and allowed TMCC to provide increased courses, directly leading to more students entering the workforce with skills necessary to support growth in these industries. Thank you for your support on this critical funding. TMCC fully supports this and is looking forward to the next biennium in supporting Nevada's workforce training and development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jen Tune, J-E-N-T-U-N-E. I am the Main Street Gardnerville Program Director. I'm here to, first of all, thank you for the investment that you have made into the Nevada Main Street program. We are your oldest existing accredited Main Street program to date. We have been in existence since 2008, and thanks to legislation in 2017, you created the Nevada Main Street Coordinating Program that allowed us to get our accreditation for the National Main Street Program in 2018, which is a huge victory. We're getting ready to celebrate about 17 years. But I know if you're anyone like me, you like to hear some stats and data, so I wanted to share a few numbers so that you can see the impacts that your investments have on our communities. In just 2024 alone, we awarded over $36,000 in facade improvement grant program awards, which is a 50-50 reimbursement for repairs and other historic preservation efforts done into our downtown district. We saw over $120,000 of private investment into our program, and we saw $65,000 of our investment from our local municipality and county. And we had $40,000 in GoEd grant funding, which is allowing us to do some significant things downtown. Your volunteers down in Gardnerville, you have about 200 that are on an active roster, and to date, they have contributed 61,671 hours, which is a whopping $1,379,896 of in-kind investment, and you really cannot put a number on the hearts and what these people do for your communities. We do host a lot of our fundraising efforts in order to do these programs. We have our Third Thursday Wine Walk, our annual coffin races and fall festival, and we have our annual, which is in its fourth year, Dia de los Muertos Festival, which is our first cultural festival we have downtown, and we're really excited to announce that we may have a second cultural festival to join that in the next year or so. We do have a Main Street in Bloom program. If you have come down to our district, we have hanging flower baskets, which is in partnership with our local FFA programs at Douglas High School and Smith Valley High School. They cultivate the flowers and they take care of them, and then they come out and they beautify our streets from May to September. We have our Heritage Park Gardens Community Garden, which is a 1.5 acre garden that we currently have a significant amount of GoEd funding to completely rehab that space. This space was started with 6,000 bulbs that were bought from Denmark. They sold them in baggies of 5 to the businesses downtown. They're daffodil bulbs, and that was literally seed money to start the gardens. And now, thanks to GoEd funding, they are going to have 32 raised garden beds, a full enclosure, a memorial rose garden, and so many amenities to the space. And not only the funding that is helping us to do this, the in-kind investments from our local businesses has been significant. We've already seen close to $50,000 of contributions from our businesses alone just to see this garden get off the ground. We were awarded a USDA grant for a site activation plan for underutilized parcels, helping to make sure that we make the most out of our community and making it an economic driver downtown. And of course, I'm not going to miss out on harping on, this is where you get on my pedestal, historic preservation. Our efforts in order to preserve our historic buildings are significant. As I mentioned, we have our facade improvement grant program. If you guys want to hear some numbers on that, I am so proud to share. Over the last 4 years, we've had 14 grant awards. The total projects coming in just over $207,000. We awarded $90,000, and the businesses have matched well over $106,000. And these numbers aren't current to the current projects we have out of there. GoEd money was also used, 10,000 of that, to help facilitate these reimbursement grants. And we're also very proud to say that we are investing $25,000 in a historic survey of our downtown. We have not had a historic survey downtown since 1981, and half of our structures were not considered historic. So this is really significant. I always want to talk about historic preservation because I think we love this fine state of Nevada, and if we don't preserve our historic nature and charm, what else are we going to be doing?
And we thank you so much for all that information. It's great, and we know Virginia City is one of our historic preservation spots. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for all your information, and thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, it looks like we will go down south to Las Vegas. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, this is Betsy Fretwell, Fretwell. I am the interim president and CEO of Southern Nevada's regional nonprofit economic development agency, the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, and we serve all of Southern Nevada. I appreciate the opportunity to provide remarks on our state's work in this important space. Economic development is essential to creating quality permanent careers, diversifying our industries, and generating wealth that then gets reinvested into our state and local government economies. With Nevada's limited revenue sources and rapidly growing population, sustaining this progress in economic development is critical. And without continued investment, we risk stagnation and lost opportunities for future generations. Southern Nevada's population is projected to surpass 3 million individuals in the next decade, further driving investment, job creation, and economic diversification. To maintain the momentum, much of which you heard about this morning in earlier testimony, we need strategic leadership, and that comes from you and your strong legislative support. Our priority industries, advanced manufacturing, clean technologies, healthcare, biotech, IT, financial services, and scalable startups align with the state's economic goals and offer high-paying, long-term careers. You've heard a lot about the successes from vital GoEd programs this morning. Yet, not to be the rain on the parade, Nevada ranks one of the lowest in economic resiliency in the Southwest, according to the National Hatchman Index, making us vulnerable to economic downturns. All of us have weathered many of those in the last decade, and I know none of us want to go through that again. So it's our job to get ready for it. In those moments, families move out of market, they lose their jobs, there's less tax revenue coming into the state, and we remain vulnerable to that. That's why enabling economic development is so critical, and progressing into the future with strong programs is vital. I wanted to just outline very quickly a couple of the GO-ED programs that we feel are key. One, you've heard a lot about the Knowledge Fund. We wholeheartedly support that. The Workforce Innovation Fund is also critical, as is the Main Street program. In the Main Street program alone, we had local governments, including Henderson, Las Vegas, Moapa, which is part of unincorporated Clark County, Mesquite, and Boulder City, taking advantage of that program. Economic progress is a team sport, and we're proud to collaborate with GO-ED and our regional partners to secure Nevada's long-term prosperity. We strongly urge your continued support so we can keep driving economic success for our communities and residents. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fitwell, for being with us today. Next there at the table.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Sergey Montano. For the record, that is S-E-R-G-I-Y, last name M-O-N-T-A-N-O, and I'm speaking in support of the Knowledge Fund. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Zeta Genesis Medicine, a Nevada-born and raised biotechnology company whose administration expended over $180 million developing drugs to treat Parkinson's disease, heart disease, and more. I'm joined by my patient outreach manager, Kyrie Anderson, as well. Today, we join to tell you how the Knowledge Fund and the Nevada Center for Applied Research have been pivotal to our success and to create a brighter future for millions. As Zeta, we're pioneering therapies for, as I mentioned, Parkinson's disease and heart disease and other vascular conditions with their lab right on NCAR's facilities at UNR. NCAR has been more than a partner, they've been a catalyst. When we needed to scale up, they moved fast, upgrading our lab space within weeks, connecting us to top biological researchers, and adapting to our growing needs. The fluidity paired with their adherence to cutting-edge science has fueled a long-term collaboration that has only deepened over years of working together. Their impact is undeniable, and with NCAR's support, we've treated over 200 patients, achieved a 53% improvement in motor scores, and a 21.2% increase in cerebral blood flow, results confirmed by empirical data. These breakthroughs were built on years of partnership and accelerated in just the last few months, and they're revolutionary. They're paving the way for tangible treatments for millions of people around the world, and NCAR's ability to expand with us, offering both resources, expertise, and most importantly, a shared vision has made this possible. This is the power of the Knowledge Fund. It is not just about funding research, it's about creating jobs, attracting investments, and driving innovation that transforms lives. NCAR, backed by the Knowledge Fund's on the cutting edge, and we are right there with them. We're growing fast, hiring locally, and dreaming bigger because of the Knowledge Fund and the tools they've given us to succeed. I urge you to keep investing in this partnership. It's a proven model for economic growth and human impact for cutting-edge biotechnology companies throughout our great state. Together, we're not just advancing science, we're building a healthier, stronger Nevada and a world where diseases like Parkinson's have a real solution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next there. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. As Sergey stated, my name is Kyrie Anderson. For the record, that is K-H-I-R-Y-A-N-D-E-R-S-O-N. I stand before you today to share the remarkable strides being made in our state in the fight against Parkinson's disease, thanks to the collaborative efforts between Zeta Genesis Medicine and NCAR at the University of Nevada, Reno. Zeta Genesis Medicine has been at the forefront of developing innovative treatments for neurodegenerative diseases. Our primary focus has been on harnessing the potential of fibroblast growth factor 1, FGF1, a naturally occurring protein that promotes the growth of new blood vessels to treat numerous incurable cardiovascular diseases. Our partnership with NCAR has been instrumental in the advancements of this groundbreaking research. However, there is still much work to be done. As Sergey mentioned, since May 2022, we have treated over 200 individuals suffering from Parkinson's disease. Our team has already seen robust improvements in many sufferers, and watching the stories of those treated start to reclaim their lives is truly, for a lack of a better word, incredible. However, it isn't just about who we have treated, but also about who is still waiting. Thousands of Nevadans, millions of Americans, and hundreds of millions of people worldwide. And NCAR's efficiency will be indispensable to reach our great goal of a healthier world. NCAR's importance does not only make ripples here in Nevada, but also serves as a catalyst for global medical progress. This April 2nd, thanks in part to our partnership with NCAR, Zeta is hosting a dinner that will have patients coming from around the nation and around the world to our great state of Nevada. These individuals are traveling to learn more about the groundbreaking work happening here, work that simply would not be possible without the cutting-edge resources, research infrastructure, and collaborative spirit we found through NCAR. This event is a powerful testament to how Nevada's investment in innovation is making a global impact. While looking back at all we have done, I implore you to also look at what is still needed. And NCAR's collaboration has been and will continue being paramount to achieving these goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas? I don't believe so, so we will go to AVH. Is there anyone on the phone lines?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to provide public comment today, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Barry Johnston, Las Vegas, BERRYJOHNSTON. How can we foster an innovation-driven economy in Nevada when this very government keeps finding new ways to steal from us, disguised as taxes and fees, burying businesses in red tape and punishing entrepreneurs for daring to build something? This legislature has become a master class on how to kill prosperity. You want to know why Nevada isn't attracting the $4 trillion in capital President Trump has opened up? Simple. We have abandoned the cowboy spirit that built this great state. We've traded grit and freedom for bureaucracy, social media trends, and woke nightmares. We used to be a no tax, no nonsense, real opportunity state. Now parasites have invaded the system, looking for every way to steal, control, and regulate us into submission. We don't want more programs, more grants, or more knowledge funds funded by our tax dollars. If your ideas were so good, the free market would back them. If private capital won't invest, there's a reason. Maybe it's a bad bet, and no offense, but most of you have no business sense to decide where capital should go. That's not your job. We need to get back into a lean, mean, limited government, not bloated, woke empire that bleeds small businesses and taxpayers' drives, which scares off real innovation. If you want booming economy, get out of the way, restore liberty, cut the nonsense, and let Nevadans build a future without Big Brother breathing down our necks. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Good morning, Chairs Dondero Loop and Monroe Moreno. Just checking first if you can hear me appropriately.
Yes, we can hear you.
My name is Quentin Perfect, thank you. My name is Quentin Singleton, spelled QUINTONSINGLETON, joining by phone with my colleague Ryan Rubio, spelled RYANRUBIO. We're here on behalf of Zero Labs, an accelerator program for startups and early-stage companies that was born and raised in Nevada. I appreciate the lengthy session we've had today so far. I will attempt to keep my comments brief. However, I do believe it's important to hear about the direct impact this body is having on the ecosystem here in Nevada. Specifically, I'm here today to provide testimony in support of the Governor's Office of Economic Development and the Knowledge Account, which supports critical programs that are transforming our economic landscape through innovation and entrepreneurship, specifically the Zero Labs program, of which I'll touch on next. In 2023, a powerful collaboration formed between GoEd, UNLV's Office of Economic Development, and Zero Labs. Our mission is to develop a pathway for students, faculty, and staff across the Nevada system of higher education to transform their ideas and innovations into the next generation of economic opportunities in the state, while also attracting entrepreneurs and businesses from outside the state to come here to support our priority industries. As part of this collaboration, Zero Labs brings real-world expertise in startups, entrepreneurship, and innovation. We complement that with the research capabilities of NSHE and UNLV in particular, and the policy support of GoEd. Together, in a nutshell, we're building a comprehensive startup ecosystem that is anchored in UNLV's Blackfire facility at the Harry Reid Research and Technology Park. For purposes of today's hearing, and I will keep this brief, recognizing once again the lengthy day today, I want to provide a couple specific details and notes about the impact of this program, and noting that it is your direct support of the legislature that supports these funds. And I'll keep this brief and bring this to an end.
Yes, please
In short,
be brief.
Since we started the program,
Please be brief because you have hit your 2-minute limit.
yes, ma'am. 1 second. In brief, we've since the beginning of 2024, we've had over 100 startup founders and 6-7 companies come to this program. 30% of those participants are directly from the NG system, and we're finding that we're attracting some of the greatest technologies from around the world here to support in Nevada. I will stop on the rest of the economic notes, and if there's any interest, I can always submit this in writing.
Please do, and we appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 200. Please press star 6 to unmute yourself, and you may begin.
Sorry about that. Good morning. My name is Travis Carr, spelled Traviscarr, and I am the Director of Workforce, Career, and Technical Education at Western Nevada College. I'm here today to express our strong support for all that WIN has provided to WNC over the years and our hope that this partnership continues well into the future. WNC plays a vital role in equipping students with the skills and knowledge needed to meet the evolving and emerging workforce demands of Nevada's industries. Because of WIN, WNC has been able to expand workforce training programs and in turn directly contribute to the growth and sustainability of our regional economy. As an example, we were able to support Redwood Materials and others in the battery recycling industry to create critical just-in-time trainings that allowed them to upskill their workforce to meet an immediate need. As an extension, WNC has integrated those trainings into our existing manufacturing program to ensure a sustainable pipeline of skilled talent for the future. In this program alone, we have trained over 100 people, the majority of whom have since been promoted and increased their earnings. WIN funding is essential to meet the current and emerging workforce needs of employers in industries that are key drivers of Nevada's economy, such as advanced manufacturing, information technology, and skilled trades. This funding also directly benefits Nevada citizens by preparing them for high-demand, high-wage careers, empowering them with greater career mobility and providing long-term stability. Our strong partnerships with local employers ensure that college programs are aligned with current, real-world industry needs that directly benefit Nevadans and Nevada communities. Continued investment through WIN will allow WNC to continue supporting local businesses, foster innovation, and directly contribute to a strong, resilient economy in our region and state. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Hello, my name is Deidre Edmond Drew, DEDRA-EDMOND-DREW. I am the CEO of the Jackson Street Alliance. We are a group of legacy property owners who have property on Jackson Avenue in the historic West Side in Las Vegas. Main Street America program has helped us tremendously in finding out ways to fund regeneration, tourism, reinvestment, and preservation of the cultural corridor that we have, that is the Jackson Street, which was known back in the day as the Black Strip, having had legalized gaming available to all. Main Street America, under their leadership and under their programs, has opened our eyes to how we can enact with Main Street America, getting funding, and interact with the city, the county, the state, GOED, and federal funding as well. This program has been vital in our organization, and we absolutely support it and continue to use it to support our adventures that we have in Las Vegas in the historic West Side. Thank you.
Next caller, please.
Good morning. My name is Nicole Maher, NICOLEMAHER. Good morning, chairs and committee members. I am the grants director for Great Basin College with a main campus in Elko, Nevada. I wish to address you regarding the funding request from GOED, Workforce Innovations for a New Nevada. As I'm sure you know, Great Basin College is one of 8 institutions within the Nevada system of higher education. What you might not know is that GBC's service area covers 86,500 square miles with only 140,000 residents. While we use the term rural, the service area is actually frontier due to low population density, distance from population centers, and availability of services. For students whose homes stretch across Nevada's rural mountains, valleys, and hundreds of miles of interstate, rural can seem synonymous with lack of education, lack of opportunity, and lack of a family-sustaining wage. But the GoEd Win Fund has been helping us change that. Through $1.6 million in funding in this biennium, we have been able to launch programs that have helped connect more than 180 students with industries that depend on a highly skilled workforce. For that reason, graduates of our industrial arts and health science programs have an over 90% placement rate 6 months post-graduation. GoEd Win funding has allowed us to launch and fortify instrumentation technology, welding technology, manufacturing machining technology, and others, including our new flagship for customized training, GBC NORCAT Mind Skills Training. We could not have stood up these programs without your support and the GoEd Win Fund, and we are hopeful that critical funding can continue to support our students and our industry partners over the coming biennium. Thank you.
Next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 819. You are unmuted and may begin.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, this is Michael Brown, BROWN. It was my honor to serve as GoEd Director for Governor Sisolak for 4 years. When I took office, I thought the 4 programmatic offices of GoEd were under-resourced. Unfortunately, a pandemic interfered with my being able to address that. I think what Director Burns and his team have proposed is a right sizing. It provides the flexibility and agility that an office like GoEd needs to lead the state forward. And I'm pleased to offer my support for what GoEd has put before you today. I'm now a fellow at the Lindsay Institute. We'd be glad to discuss this with any member who has any issues. And I appreciate your time today, and I regret I could not be there in person. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 550. You are unmuted and may begin. Caller with the last 3 digits, 550. Please check that your device or phone is not muted on your end.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, Dondero Loop and Monroe Moreno, and members of the committee. For the record, I am Caroline McIntosh, CarolineMC, capital INTOSH, White Pine Main Street Board Chairman. We appreciate GoEd for sponsoring and funding the Nevada Main Street Program, the community development arm of GoEd. White Pine Main Street was organized 6 years ago and has been very active in community development by creating an attractive downtown and sponsoring events and programs to support local businesses. We have added wayfinding signs, new public art, benches, and are currently embarked on a facade improvement program for downtown businesses funded through GoEd. A benefit to the Nevada Main Street program for all of the 30 programs is technical assistance and strategic planning. In addition, Nevada Main Street has created the strongest community network throughout Nevada. We appreciate your continued financial support of the Nevada Main Street program.
Next caller, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Joint Committee. For the record, I'm Brian Sherman, BRIAN SHERMAN. I'm the CEO of the Southwest Sustainability Innovation Engine, or SWISI, highlighted already by my colleagues, Drs. Acharya and Bernard and Mr. Miles and Mr. Heiss. We're one of just 9 regional innovation engines in the country, funded by the National Science Foundation. We serve 3 states, Nevada, Arizona, and Utah. My testimony today is offered in support of the Nevada Knowledge Fund. In Nevada, SWISI teams at UNLV and DRI are accelerating tech transfer into innovations and startups focused on turning environmental constraints and water scarcity, energy security, and air quality into economic opportunity. We've funded projects and startups in long-duration energy storage, atmospheric water harvesting, PFAS removal, brackish water recovery, mineral extraction from mining wastewater, high energy density batteries, and many, many others. The NSF funded SWISI through February of 2026 with potential funding of $160 million over 10 years. In order to get renewed this fall with additional funding, we need to show direct and indirect investments in SWISI portfolio companies and programs are leveraging federal support. I'm testifying today to offer our strong support for your consideration to enhance the Knowledge Fund program managed by GOED. This program is a critical vehicle for GOED to invest in UNLV and DRI through programs like the GAP Fund, Entrepreneurs in Residence, Catalyst Grants, and strategic faculty hires and new venture development. These programs generate direct economic and workforce development impacts in our region and unlock significant public and private follow-on investments. SWISI is turning generational resource challenges and arguably the nation's hardest problems into economic opportunity to ensure national security and drive continued prosperity in the U.S. We believe this is quite literally the most important work. Thank you for this opportunity to offer support for the GOED Knowledge Fund program, and thank you for your consideration today.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
If you have recently joined us and would like to provide public comment today, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 178. Please press star 6 to unmute yourself, and you may begin.
AVH, we are not hearing anyone if there's anyone there.
Okay. There are no further callers to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you helping us with that. That completes our agenda for today. I'd like to thank everyone for being here and spending the morning with us. Our next meeting is Monday morning at 8 a.m. This meeting is adjourned.